Hello, how y'all doing today? I definitely did something to my shoulder. I don't know what happened last night, but I definitely did something to my shoulder, and I just couldn't sleep and couldn't sleep. So today I've got an excited little puppy. Do you want to come up, buddy? Do you want to come up? Yeah, you do. Say hi. Say hi. Hi. Milo's here to say hello. Ah. So today was kind of a wash for me, honestly, trying to just struggle with this shoulder thing the whole time. Like, it's okay right now, but ooh, isn't that life for you, right? You literally just like sleep on something. Hey, damn boxes, how you doing today, bud? Good to see you. Just struggling with an injury, that's all. You know, it's and it's like the dumbest. Like, I wish I had a fallen over. You know? I wish I had a fallen over and actually hurt myself or something. Like, that would have been, at least that would have been a story. At least I would have had something to tell you guys. I would have been like, oh, I was walking down the street and a bus rolled over and there was a tiny little dog. And so I dove in order to protect the tiny little dog and rolled past but nothing happened. I literally slept on my shoulder wrong or something, and that's it. It's good. It was good. I was getting you though. I was getting you, right? I was telling a story and you were just like, what happened? Oh my god. No, totally fake. This moment makes it all worth it. It makes it all worth it. You need more collagen probably in your diet. Well, I mean, who can afford food these days, Famita? Come on, we got rent to pay, right? We got rent to pay. I'm literally down to like pasta at this point. Like I've got like a bowl of pasta left in my house. I am gonna go shopping tomorrow, but hey, Nova Scotia, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Well, I'd like to start today with rivals like these. Doug Ford has nothing to fear, right? Doug Ford had a bad day in North Bay. Luckily for the progressive conservative leader, his main rivals also had forgettable days, each in their own way. Too bad for the rest of us. Wondering when the campaign for the June 2nd election might give us a decent debate and turn into a real race? Not yet. Maybe not ever. Ford's challengers still aren't up to the job of holding him to account. Now, time is running out to make this a change election rather than a Ford re-election. They have 3 more weeks to show they deserve the job of premier, or he's destined to reclaim power for another 4 years, according to every poll so far. Tuesday's first live confrontation between Ford and his major foes, the NDP's Andrea Horwath and Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca, amounted to 90 minutes of dead air. Even when Ford floundered, looking down desperately at the crib sheet on his lectern to remember his talking points, his opponents let him off easy, hard though that might be to believe. Ontario's Northern debate is an esoteric election tradition, the preliminary matchup that serves as a warm-up to the province-wide debate broadcast by a consortium of television networks later in the campaign. But never has an event with so much at stake had so little impact. Horwath seemed more fixated on Del Duca's liberal baggage than focused on Ford's failures as premier. Del Duca, in his debating debut, seemed to be auditioning for the role of premier in waiting. Above the fray, but phlegmatic. How's that for a word? Phlegmatic. Guys, we gotta pause this for a second. What the heck? Phlegmatic. Of a person having an unemotional and stolidly calm disposition. That's a fantastic word. Famita's just chatting away about foraging. I know people who do foraging. It's good stuff if you can find it. If they both keep that up, they'll never take Ford down, and the PC frontrunner will coast to victory on voting day. Even when COVID-19 came up, the candidate seemed curiously detached and uninspired about the biggest public health challenge of our time. Asked what they would do differently, none had a compelling answer. Ford uttered platitudes about PPE and the Ontario spirit, while the others alternated between recrimination and collaboration. Honestly, man, like, our leaders suck. Like, they suck. I cannot believe that you can't mount an attack against someone like Doug Ford. Doug Ford is blisteringly incompetent. Like, he is not fit to govern. The only thing, literally the only thing of value that he did during his entire time as premier was right at the beginning of the pandemic when he said, I'm in over my head and someone else needs to make the decisions. Right? I wish he would do that with all decision making, right? Like, I can't believe that you're not going after Ford on his austerity measures, which are a disaster, right? Like, the second you understand how an economy actually works, you realize that these austerity measures are a complete and total disaster. You can't mount an attack against Ford on the climate change file. Like, what are you talking about? Like, emissions are set to go up 400% under Ford. Like, we're this absolutely ridiculous people where we're re-electing, like, an obvious, grotesque boob. Like, I guess we're just a province of overt, grotesque boobs, right? Like, we just can't seem to figure out, we would be better off with an empty paper bag as premier than Doug Ford. Like, literally, just like, my dog would be a better premier. Like, straight up. So it's just, it's heartbreaking to watch. It's heartbreaking to watch this happen. Like, I keep saying to people, like, I don't really want to participate in this society, right? And the response I'm getting back from people is, well, okay, but you have to, right? But, like, no thanks, right? Like, no thanks. Why in God's name would I want to participate with this? Like, I feel like I'm literally in a society that's, like, pointing a gun at its own head, saying, I'm going to pull this trigger 100%. And I'm just like, don't. Like, just don't. Just put the gun down. Just don't do it. Right? And they're looking at me like I'm the crazy one. Right? That's the best part. Like, I'm the crazy one because I'm not interested in watching the society immolate itself this way. And I'm not interested in participating in a society that's immolating itself this way. And that's exactly what we're doing. Like, this is a self-immolation. It's just, it's you watch these, like, trucker guys, and you watch these like anti-vaccine people, and it's like they're dousing gas on themselves, right? And you, by the way, and we're all supposed to, like, act like they're the, and then when you're like, hey, maybe don't like that match to immolate yourself, they're like, freedom. Which is why I said capitalists are basically apoptosis. See, everyone's using words today, man. What's with the words? Huh? What's with the words? Come on. We got phlegmatic, apoptosis, right? What do we got? A type of cell death in which a series of molecular steps in a cell lead to its death. I mean, but that's the question, isn't it? Like, that's the question, isn't it? Like, is it natural? Like, maybe this is exactly the trajectory that humanity is supposed to be on, right? Maybe maybe George Carlin got it right. You know, that it's like the Earth plus plastics. And we're here to get the plastic. We got the plastic, and now we're gone, right? Because we're no longer a necessary part of this, right? So the Earth will move on, and it'll be the Earth plus plastic. Meanwhile, right? Meanwhile, U.S. overdose deaths hit record 170,000 last year, CDC says. I mean, yeah, total collapse of society feels imminent at this point. Like, that's what this channel's about, right? Like, that's what this channel's about. It's an attempt to rally people at least in solidarity. Like, we're all spread out all over the place, but we need to be rallying each other into the communities that we have and into the organizations that we have in order to make this through, right? Like, it does seem as though the big shift, right, is the collapse of the American empire and the collapse of dollar hegemony. Like, that's the large meta trend, right? And no one's actually talking about that in any kind of serious way. And uh-oh, we're going to have an alien conversation here. The Great Filter. The Great Filter, in the context of the Fermi paradox, is whatever prevents non-living matter from undergoing abiogenesis in time to expanding lasting life as measured by the Kardashev scale. Dude, there is so much right in that sentence. I would have to, like, look up the Fermi paradox. I think I know the Fermi paradox, but, like, abiogenesis, the Kardashev, like, come on, man. I don't have that much time. We're going to do, like, a whole... Pissed off coming in with it, too. You want to do the number draw, bud? Let's do the number draw. I'm feeling like this is going to be a fast and loose one today, guys. That's how I feel like it's going to be. It's going to be a fast and loose today. What do we got? We got today's number. We got I'm in for a 7, dude. We're doing... we got an 8. Ligandy's good to see you, bud.
Here we go for today's number. It's May 11,
it's
2022.
Time. That's right, Seraphim.
10 balls.
Mock's not in the chat.
Each ball
but
has
his
a number.
spirit is with us.
Numbers 1 through 10.
Here we go.
Swirl.
Here we go.
the
Manifesting
numbers.
7. Manifesting 7. Whoa, 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 whoa,
Pick a number. Today's number is 2.
2's not a 7. 2's not a 7. It's not even close. Not even close. Everybody missed it. Oh, wait. Ah, Pissed Off got it. There you go, bud. Okay, I was worried that nobody in the chat got it, but if Pissed Off Canadian got it, then we're all winners. We're all winners. All right, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're getting into the alien conversation. Let's go. Let's go, guys. Come on. Big hair alien. Let's go, man. I am in the mood. I am in the mood for just some wacky alien conversation here. Let's go. Aliens. All right? Let's go. Let's go. I'm totally down for this. I've got my articles. We can rapid fire them later on. I'm completely fine with spending some time talking about aliens. Let's go. Let's go. Pissed is hacking, ban the cheater. But look, let me state my position as clearly as I can about what I think is going on with the alien situation. For sure there's aliens. Like, for sure. Like, this place is way too complex and weird and wacky and huge. It's extremely it's more unbelievable to me that there wouldn't be aliens, right? Like, if I like died and talked to God and was like, "Hey, were there aliens?" and he was like, "No, it was just you guys," I would be like, "What?" That's the reason why I say there's definitely, like, there's just. If it's just a probability scale, it's gotta be that there's aliens. Like, it's just gotta be the case. And, but, like, they have zero reason to want to interact with us. I don't know why they would, right? Like, the universe is so, like, what, they don't need our resources. Like, the universe is, like, this broad infinite, and if they've got space travel and shit, like, they do not need to interact with us. And so, yeah, I think Seraphim's nailing it. The only interaction we are getting is them watching a societal collapse for study purposes. Yeah. Like, the question they've got to be asking themselves, straight up, is like, why are we doing it? Like, this is completely preventable. Like that's the thing that staggers me the most on all of this. Is like it's completely preventable. And we're just not. Like, we're not even really that interested. Like, really. So, like, that would be the fascination point. If I was an alien species, I'd be like, why are they doing it? Like, why are they just marching towards this self-immolation? Like, what is it about these and because if we survive it, and then attain spaceflight and stuff, and then they've got to start dealing with us, yeah, they want to know what kind of creature we are. And we're fucking terrifying. We're fucking terrifying. They just recently found the last nucleotides on asteroids, which confirms the panspermia theory, which may mean this isn't something inherent to us. So this is the theory that life started by asteroids hitting Earth, right? That there was actually life didn't originate from Earth, but rather that it was like planted on Earth. Is that's more or less that idea. And of course it's like who's to say, right? And my feeling is that the Earth is more than capable. Like I mean, it could be both, right? Like we don't know how the thing works. Like, we don't know how the machine of life generation works. Really, we don't. Like, for all we know, it's the Earth, like, needs to create, like, a cauldron of some kind, right? And then, like, asteroids come from, like, the sun or something. And then asteroids land on the planets, and the planets that are capable of actually producing life merge with the stuff, the DNA that comes from the asteroids that come from the sun or whatever. And it all, like, manifests and spawns that way. Like, it's all... But it's all theory. It's all just kind of wacky, like, what? No, John, this might be related. What if one of the great filters for civilization in our universe is this? People devoid of compassion and empathy. Oh, yeah, I talked about this. I've talked about this before, Famita, that I actually think one of the traits of spacefaring people has to be compassion and empathy, because you can't actually maintain a spacefaring civilization of any sort without cooperation and collaboration. So if your species is incapable of operating peacefully with neighbors, operating and acting reasonably and rationally with compassion and empathy with neighboring provinces or states or countries or any of this kind of stuff, you have no hope. Right? Like, can you imagine if we, like, colonize... we colonize Mars, okay? So we colonize Mars. Great, we did it. How long do you think it's going to be until Mars is like, oh, we could just, like, go independent, and we're going to be independent, we'll be our own independent thing, and we need to not be pinned down, we need freedom from the tyranny of Earth, and, like, there's a war between Mars and Earth. Like, it would be, like, the first thing we would do. It would absolutely be the first thing that we would do. It's who we are. It's how we roll, right? So we're not going to be a spacefaring people. Not in this format. Not how we are now, right? Like, we're literally going to destroy... Like, even think about the process of getting, like, a moon base or a Mars base up. So, like, if China gets a base on the moon, you think the United States is just not going to fucking nuke the shit out of it? Of course they are. Right? Like, maybe not nuke it, but, like, there's a bunch of shit that they can do. And being in space is so fragile. It's so fragile. Like a smattering of rocks that just, like, smash up shit can, like, destroy your whole project. Right? Like, so I'm in complete agreement. Like, if you're not attempting to live peacefully, and if you're not attempting to be a peaceful spacefaring creature, I don't think you survive in space. Straight up. Like, if you're not moving forward with cooperation, if you're not collaborating with your neighbors, if you're not collaborating with other countries, if you're not attempting to do things for the benefit of everyone involved in the process, then it's going to fall apart, because space is unrepentant, right? It's not like the Earth, where like, oh, we got into a scuffle and we fucked up and we all went back and licked our wounds and we still have our resources and we can grow food and all that kind of stuff, right? Blah, blah, blah. So you can fuck around, right? Like, and even if you fuck around and find out, like, worst case scenario is your people go through a period of time where things are, bad for you, right? In space, if you fuck around and find out, the whole project is gone and everybody involved is sucked into space. Like, it's a fuck around and find out situation writ large, right? Like, there's no going back and licking your wounds. Going back and licking your wounds is literally go back to Earth. Like, get the fuck out of space, right? And like, if we were to attempt to colonize Mars, if we were to attempt to get there, like, we're talking about a period of time where such a colony would need such an incredible amount of support from the mother colony, right? From the home planet, right? From Earth, that like we would be pouring resources into Mars or the moon or any place, right? We would be pouring resources into it, right? Resources that we're not using to help anybody right now, right? So we would be withholding resources from citizens here, reducing their quality of life, making things a lot worse for them, while polluting the shit out of the planet in order to fire rockets at Mars. And we all know what's going to happen. There's going to be like a factionalization that happens in a war of some kind. It's going to blow the whole project up. It's who we are, right? So we're not getting into space. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, all this science fiction, like, what was the name? There was a science fiction show that I watched recently where there's like Earth and then Mars, and then there was an asteroid, like the asteroid belt people. I can't remember the name of the show, but I just remember like watching it and just being like, this story seems unbelievable to me because it doesn't treat space nearly as unrepentantly. That like all kinds of things happen in the show, and I'm just like, yeah, those people would be dead. Like, space is not Earth. It's completely unrepentant. And like, there is no coming back, right? Small errors destroy the shit out of everything. James Webb Telescope coming online to show us more of the universe. You bet. You bet, man. I kind of wish we were doing more to just discover the ocean, Like, we live on a planet and we don't know anything about it. Like, we literally don't know what's going on under the ocean, right? Oh, you want a song, bud? Sorry, mocked it was a 2. What song do you want, bud? You name it. I'll play it. Aliens looks at our politics. Nope. Seraphim, I'm saying life is more common in the universe than we thought, which means this type of societal collapse might happen elsewhere because it's an inherent flaw to life in this universe. It could be resultant of how the universe arranges information. Who knows? I see it more as a test and not a flaw. Any society unable to come together on a global level is destined for collapse. Yeah, I mean, I just, like, and it's not necessarily, like, coming together, right? It's not necessarily, like, total unity. It's just getting to a place where we accept that we're not going to blow each other up, right? Like, the bare bones absolute minimum of just like, oh yeah, like, we can disagree and be disgruntled and all that kind of stuff, but like, are we gonna pick up guns and fight them? No. Like, but we're not gonna get there, right? We love that shit. We love it. We're especially here in the West. Like, we love war. Like, we worship war. We use every excuse we possibly can to get into war, right? Like, what our entertainment is all violence and war. Like, you got the UFC, you got football, you got like, we have a gun nut culture. We got all this kind of crazy shit, right? Like, sports is like this codified competitive violence that we have built into us. And so this idea that we're gonna like, and there are people walking around this society that are like, the best way to build a society is for have everybody compete. And you're like, what? Yeah, imagine trying to get to space with that ethos. Like, it's not going to work that way, And so for me, it's less about like coming together with unity and more to just be like, oh, we could just like not be overt like soccer hooligans, basically. Like that like Like, we are like the soccer hooligans of the universe, for sure. That if we begin interacting with space in a meaningful way, we're going to be like orcs. Like, we really are. We're just going to be consuming everything and destroying everything around us. Right, but now we know asteroids have everything necessary for life. It means it's more common than we thought, which also means it might be encoded into our universe. But again, like, we don't know how the life gets on the asteroid, right? Like, that's another part of that puzzle. Is like, what's the process? Was there a planet that had life on it that then blew up, and we're finding the asteroids that have like these signs of life on it after a planet was destroyed? We don't know. Yes, this is why it's one of the great filters Seraphim civilizations needed to overcome. Yeah, this is it. Aliens, look at our politics. Okay, nope. Look at the Permia hypothesis. They've just confirmed all nucleotides are found in asteroids. What if it's encoded into life in this universe, and in order to achieve greatness, we need to overcome this evil that is lack of empathy? Most species also go by emotion first over thought. Well, to me, this is completely natural, right? Like, humans are primarily, like, all creatures are primarily emotional creatures, right? Like my little dog here, Milo, he's just an emotional little ball of energy. That's all he is, right? Like, he doesn't like think things through. Like, he doesn't have any of that. And we're basically like that. You know, we have the capability to overcome it. We have the capability to kind of pursue enlightenment, but like, we rarely do. I don't know if I buy that, though. Most species on our planet find equilibrium with the environment and each other. We seem to be an exception. Yes, that we have this sort of blessing and curse, which is that we can exist in an abstract space. And that existence in the abstract space has given us knowledge of our future in a very real and specific way. Like, I think the worst part is the knowledge that we die. Right? Like, we're not prophets. Like, we can't prophesy the future and be like, and then this will happen and this will happen. It's all speculation. But one thing that you don't need to be a prophet to see the future on and to understand is that we die, right? And that knowledge of our inevitable death gives us a great deal of anxiety, gives us a great deal of anxiousness, and gives us a great deal of emotional. There's a lot of emotional turmoil that comes from that, and it creates all kinds of absurd behaviors. Like, because we know we die, we have this sort of deep desire to make this life meaningful, right? That we're here for this sort of temporary short period of time, and so many of us are focused on this concept of meaning and create a meaningful life. As if the universe doesn't think you have meaning in the first place, right? Like, this is sort of my feeling on this whole concept of meaning, right? Like, your perception of what is or is not meaningful is probably doesn't matter that much, right? Like, and whether or not you are meaningful is beside the point, right? Your perception of it is not is completely irrelevant. Like, you're a monkey on a rock flying around the sun, like that perception of that is about as good as it's going to get for us as a species and as people, right? So when we get into the subject of meaning, right? Well, the universe created us, right? The earth created us. It either did it haphazardly, or it did it because it had some other objective, or there's some other meaning associated with it. And so that puts us just in kind of a period where we have to trust it, right? We just have to trust that what we're doing is being supported by the systems that created us in the first place. That we are doing something that has some kind of merit, right? Or some kind of meaning. But we get hyper-focused on it because, and I mean, the consumerist capitalist society doesn't help, where we feel guilty if we're not productive, right? If you just sit down and meditate, or you sit down and like chill out for a minute, this looming sense of guilt comes in and overwhelms you. right? You're supposed to feel bad if you're not making money for billionaires. But I think that this exception is that we live in that abstract space and we can communicate abstract ideas to one another. And we just live in a society that tells us not to do it. Right? Don't actually use this ability to plan and create ideas and thoughts, right? Because if you start to actually use the ability to exist in the abstract space, then you might use it to imagine a system that supersedes the system of capital. Like, we're talking a lot about, like, being able to get into space and, like, live as an empathetic species. Like, this is a major, major hurdle, right? A major hurdle is overcoming the idea that we should have an ownership class or a ruling class, generally, right? Like, that there should be a group of people who hoard all of the Earth's resources and claim to own the Earth. I think that's really what it is that there's like a small group of people who claim to own the Earth. And the Earth kind of turns around and goes, nah. Like, no. Like, you don't own me. Like, you don't own the Earth. You don't own any... Like, nobody owns anything. Like, who owns any of this, right? We're just, like, temporary creatures. We're renters at best. And yet... Anyway. Like... What's frustrating about this period of time is we're doing everything we can to continue sacrificing everything we've got to this system that's collapsing, instead of acknowledging that there are huge, gigantic systems around us that created us and support us in the first place. And we just don't want to do it. I think you've got to get into like a big conversation about like humility and hubris in order to understand what's going on that level. Most species also go by emotion first over thought. I mean, we're primarily emotional creatures. Octopus are aliens. I think octopus are part of the Earth more than we are. Frankly, like they're living their best life, right, under the ocean, chilling out. They can camouflage themselves, right? Like camouflaging yourself. Dude, are you kidding me? Like, octopuses can fucking look like rocks and stuff. Like, that's cool, dude. Like, that's cool. And they're just, like, living under the ocean, floating around. Ah, man. To live like an octopus. Yeah, I know. Asteroids don't come from the sun. I know. I'm just, like... Imagine galactic communism. Ah, yeah. We can dream. John, it's not about that. It's about the fact we're going to wipe each other out before we go to space. Yeah. Google fully automated luxury gay space communism. I put an article in the Discord that has facts proving octopus are aliens. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, guys, this is the alien stream today. This is what we're doing today. I know I usually do local news, but, like, honestly, the local news, like, the carbon bomb set to trigger catastrophic climate breakdown. Oh, boy. Can't wait to get to that article. Yeah, I'm in a silly sort of mood, dude. I'm in a silly sort of mood. Okay, dude. Facts about octopuses that prove they're aliens? Bro. Staring into the depths and beauty of our water planet, many ocean lovers may not realize the answer to where do the octopuses come from. Might lie in the exact opposite direction of where we're looking. Well, Darwinism would have you believe that life was created from the primordial soup. Another theory, Penn's Permia, maintains the belief that certain aspects of life and evolution may have developed due to seeds of matter that came to Earth from other planets. I hope this is good content for you guys, man. I hope you're not looking at me being like, what the fuck? I came here for some hard-nosed communism when we're talking about aliens. What are you gonna do? Okay. Like, yeah, accelerate evolution, smartest of the invertebrates, loads of personality, yeah, absolutely. Like, complicated biology, cosmic power. Oh, here we go. Some octopuses seem to exhibit otherworldly powers. Between 2008 and 2010, Paul the Octopus was regularly asked to pick the winner of FIFA games. Out of 14 predictions, Paul was correct 12 times. An 85.7% accuracy rate. Dude, that just means Paul knows how to pick soccer players, man. Like, oh, so Paul the Octopus has the ability to watch a game of kick a ball in a net and put together that, like, yeah, you kick the ball in the net, you win the game, right? Look, octopuses are as smart as we are, right? Despite all these amazing facts, it's not truly likely they came from outer space. But the history of science is littered with rejection theories. Look, if the Earth is capable of creating us, right, it's capable of creating something that's just as intelligent as we are, which is to be barely, like, we're barely intelligent, except looked different, right? And it comes from a different place, right? Like, I remember I didn't realize at the time when I was a kid watching Star Trek Next Generation how, like, actually, like, radical this idea that they were presenting was, which is, like, a spacefaring people, humans, looking at, like, crystal entities, or, like, clouds of neutrinos or whatever, and concluding that, oh, these are sentient life forms that we have to respect and attempt to communicate with, right? Like, I was a kid, and I was, like, presented with this idea, and I was like, that's right. No, that's absolutely right. Pickard's correct. You find something and it looks like it's communicating, it looks like it's got thoughts or ideas, you should communicate with it no matter what. That's right. I didn't realize that, like, I would grow up and I'd be surrounded by people who were like, those are just rocks. Who cares? Oh, buck of beer, right? Like, I just didn't think it was going to be that way. Like, I've always thought of octopi. That, like, these guys are as smart as we are. For sure. Like, the only difference, right, between octopi and humans is that octopi seem to, like, be cool with where they're at, right? They're just like, yeah, the ocean. There's some food. You eat the food. You chill out in the ocean. I want to be a rock for a little while. Just be a rock for a little while. They get together with other octopi, and they're like, hey, I'm an octopi too. Let's be octopi together. That's cool, right? And they just chill out. Right? Whereas we've got this, like, manic desire to just consume and eat and rip everything up and like distill it and squeeze it and change it and, like, grow it, and, like, we have, like, this desire for necromancy that other species don't seem to have, right? And we're just very, very fucky. We get very, very fucky. Never mind, the article comes to the conclusion they aren't aliens. Or is that what they want us to believe? Amazing. Amazing. Hey, Major, good to see you guys. Clara? Ooh, here, we got a new person. Clara Olafson. Good to see you, Clara. I actually have to go to sleep now. Watch this back tomorrow. Well, this is going to be the wonky one, Clara. So I hope you're enjoying it if you're listening now. Because we're literally talking about aliens, dude. We're talking about aliens. Why would the universe create us just to destroy us? It makes no sense. Yes, that's exactly my thing. Like, I just am like, obviously this is a creative pursuit. Like, it's so obvious. There's so plainly this desire to in the long term create something, and there are destructive elements within the system, right? But those elements are ultimately generative, right? Like a forest fire. One could look at a forest fire and conclude that, like, well, that's a fairly destructive force. It's like, but that's part of the ecosystem of the forest, that forest fires come through and then renew the forest, right? It's a way for the forest to clear out dead debris, to clear out part of it so that it can replace it and regenerate it, right? And I sometimes worry that us humans are following that model, that we don't actually we can't actually just look at one another and be like, this structure doesn't seem to have the value it is offering. It is making the claim that it is going to do this and this for us. However, it is not. And so I suggest that we do away with it. And now all the other humans go, yes, that's quite right. Quite right. Yep, very good. And then we do it. Doesn't seem to work that way. Right? Like, it really does seem like we've got to actually, like, physically go in and destroy the actual structure of it. Seems to be how we work. Venus is a harsh mistress named after the Roman goddess for beauty, but beyond the gas clouds surrounding it, the surface is ugly. Really? Do we actually know what the surface of Venus looks like now? The surface of Venus. No, I don't care about how far it is. Where? In depth. Venus is an interesting one, right? Of course, my favorite one is always Jupiter, right? Everybody loves Jupiter. Oh, hey, check this out. But like Jupiter is apparently just like a big ol'... Dude, NASA nailing it. Look at this. This is a 3D model of the surface of Venus. Yeah, that's hardly surprising, right? Like, it's underneath a gas cloud. It's probably just like a dead rocky, like, looks kind of like Mars in a way, right? If it wasn't for the space cloud, or the gas cloud rather. You can technically have life in the atmosphere of Venus. Oh, I wouldn't want to live there. When we take an intermission, I would love a loud rock song of your choosing. You got it, bud. I know which one you're looking for. The only real invasive species on Earth that doesn't have a natural home are humans. We are the aliens. Well, I mean, like, humans, like, there are long periods of times where we were nomadic, right? Like, my favorite guys, okay, we're going all over the place today. The Temple of Gobe. Yes, the Temple of Gobe of Tekki. I love this. This is, like, people want to get talking about space and all this kind of stuff. I love archaeology. Like, I love archaeology, right? So, the Temple of Gobe of Tekki is a temple that they have found in Turkey. Or it's being called a temple, because I don't think they know what else to call it. But it's a structure, right? And it's this structure that's built that predates the pyramids by like 5,000 years, and it's really reshaping how lots of people view the human story. And let's get real specific here. Location. Location. I love this, dude. I love this. It's maps. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. So there it is, right? Oh, it was right here. So, right and around this area, they've uncovered this giant structure and this enormous kind of thing. And I am more or less of the opinion that, because the question is, why'd they build this thing? Like, what would, like, a Neolithic people want to have these structures for in the first place? And I'm more or less of the idea that, like, the human story begins as, like, roving bands of apes, right, around in regions, right? You're going all over the place. There's none of these borders exist. Like, none of that exists. And what's the worst thing that could happen to a group of nomadic wanderers, right? The absolute bare bones worst thing that could happen to a group of nomadic wanderers would be to stumble upon another group of nomadic wanderers, right? Like, there's just nothing even close that would be as worse as this. Simply based on the idea that, like, if you're going this way and somebody's coming this way, well, you've met, and even if you're both like, oh, hello, friend, and he's like, oh, hello, friend, well, suddenly the amount of resources that you need to be consuming in the region just doubled, right? Because you're both there. They've been eating everything that way, so your journey forward is over because there's nothing there, right? They've eaten it.
right? Same story there. And so hopefully you can both just go, oh, okay, turn and move that way, right? And that'll be successful. But boy, howdy, is that a rolling of the dice. And so it's extremely believable to me that there would be just kind of understandings of territory generally, right? That, okay, we're a nomadic people, so we're going to wander around this area, right? You're a nomadic people, you're going to wander around this area, right? So you'd have like little, and what gives me evidence that that's the case is the way that the First Nations systems worked, right? In North America, right? Like there was a lot of that kind of stuff. They were largely nomadic, but they were nomadic within an area, right? That they would travel within that area, and it was understood that this is our territory. And even though we're putting together kind of rudimentary structures, we're still a very nomadic people. And so the temple of what's being called the Temple of Gobe, Tekki, I think existed as like a council chamber, right? For these nomadic groups to come, meet, trade, right? Probably intermarry and intermingle with one another, which I think is important for human species to do. And just create alliances and organize with one another. And near as we can tell, this structure begins to decline over time, because they keep rebuilding it over time, right? Like over centuries and centuries, they keep rebuilding it. And they eventually abandon it when cities begin to take hold, right? Like when you begin to actually have like a fishing port, when humans settle, right? So once the humans began to settle and the nomadic culture went away, right? Well, they had no need for this temple anymore, so they abandon it. And I also have interesting theories about the idea that the temple, because one of the things that they were doing is you can see that the temple is a ring system. Come on, get out of it. What's going on? Here we go. You can see that the temple is like a ringed sort of system, right? And we know that they were filling it in with sand, or not sand, soil. We know that they were filling it in with soil. And so I actually think that it's this process that helps humanity discover agriculture, right? We always act as though humanity always had agriculture, right? But we didn't, not by a long shot, right? There's huge swaths of human history where we did not have agriculture. And I think something like this probably allowed people of that time to experiment with and test the idea of like growing our own food and creating agricultural processes, right? And to do that, I think, and to prove that you've done that to everybody else around you, you need to control it, right? It's not enough to take the seed and put it in the ground and have it come up, and then people are like, okay, yeah, but that's nature, that's everywhere, right? It doesn't mean anything. But if you create a structure that's isolated and you do it, and you can show everybody you've done it, right? And imagine this, like, just filled with gardens and filled with food, right? Like, it's very believable to me that this whole thing would be just littered with plant life, right? Anyway, I love the Temple of Gobe, Tekki. I'm a huge, or I always pronounce it incorrectly, Gobic Litepi. Anyway. Well, isn't that nice we had a new person float in? That's nice. You don't own me. How about a Juling class? I don't know what this is. Sorry, Juling. Oh, the simulation theory, bro. the simulation theory. Even if we are, right? Like, even if we are. Okay. You know, that's sort of my opinion on it. Like, what's the difference between saying we're in a simulation or that we are like light beings being projected from a quantum energy, right? Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like it's a secular restatement of like, so that means that if we're in a simulation, that means we're a simulation that's been created by some kind of higher species. And if that's the case, then how is that different than God, right? Like, it just feels like the secularists are trying to find a new language to describe stuff that the theists have been saying all along, right? God has a great plan for your life. That's right, Grinning. God has a great plan for your life, and your life is to throw up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times. No, I mean, like, look, if there is a God or something, he doesn't need to worry about you. Like, that's something that drives me crazy about the Christians. Why, Kate Dang? Oh, hey, bud, how you doing? Good to see you. Oh, look at that. We got this fella is works with the Communist Party here around here. We're trying to get it all figured out, dude. You're coming in for the weirdest stream, dude. This is not the militant communist stream. We're literally talking about archaeology, aliens. What are we talking about? Octopuses, which are sweet, right? Right? We're having a real fuck around day today, right? We're having a real fuck around day today. Cause like, it can't all be doom and gloom, right? Can't all be doom and gloom. Okay, here. Let's do a little. Oh, you know what? This is actually a good one. This is actually a real good one. NDP motion calling on liberals to reintroduce disability benefit legislation passes House unanimously. The disability conversation. This is what I have been organizing and protesting on. Is the concept of disability and how we treat our disabled in this country. Like, you want to talk about, like, why aren't we going to be a spacefaring people? It's because, like, we don't actually have inside of us this idea that we have a social responsibility for one another, right? Like, certainly not Western culture. Like, certainly not this capitalist feeding frenzy that we're all experiencing, right? That if you are sending entire peoples into space, right? If you want to have a ship that's a community that's working together, well, guess what? It needs to be completely cooperative. Everybody needs to understand that they're working together for a common good, right? This idea of that you're going to have a successful spacefaring people based on capitalist ideas, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Like, straight up. Like, the capitalists are going to, like, oh, we've got to do this as cheaply as possible and all this goes. So, like, what's going to happen? Well, a bolt isn't going to be tightened correctly. And then the whole fucking ship's going to blow up over it. And if you think that's an overstatement, that's exactly what happened during all of the Apollo missions, right? Like, the movie Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks, right? It's this movie about how, like, Tom Hanks and his guys go up into space, and then they have this whole fucking crazy thing, and it's a big problem, and they all, America works in order to get the astronauts back safely, and it's like a huge deal and all this kind of stuff. And the reason why the thing happened was literally just like a loose screw that creates like a little bit of condensation in an area that it shouldn't. Like, and the whole fucking thing could have blown up, right? So, like, the idea that we're going to, like, yeah, the investors are for sure absolutely going to make sure that every bolt is tightened and everything's good. No, they're not. That's not how it's going to work, right? John is a giant structure. I've been called worse. I've been called worse. John, do you know about Scarabray? Scarabray. Oh, yeah. So, before I move on from that, man, I'm like all over the place today. I love it. Before I move on from that, I just want to say that I'm hearing and I'm seeing more and more our political class at least mouth the platitude that we need to do better for our disabled people, right? Because if we're not taking care of our disabled people, like if we're not taking care of our most vulnerable citizens, then we're not taking care of anything. We don't care about anything. Like, straight up. Like, if you're not going to take care of the weakest person in the society, you're not taking care of anybody, right? Like, people on disability are living below the poverty line, right? The amount that they're getting is like $1,400. Well, that's the average price of rent is like $2,000 in some places. Like, we're seeing story after story after story of how disabled people are having to choose between, like, literally eating food or having enough heat so they don't freeze. Like, it's all the shit that you would hear about, like, how communist societies, like, this is what the capitalists will say of communist societies, like, but it's happening here, right? Capitalism is basically just projecting its own failings onto communist societies, and it's getting fucking annoying. Like, it's getting fucking annoying. Oh, Milo, you okay, buddy? Sorry, guys. My little guy's caught in that reverse sneezing thing again. Sorry, guys. Hate to do it. Milo, buddy, you're ruining the stream. You're ruining the stream, dude. You're ruining the stream. You okay? Let's get you a treat, buddy. Want a treat? Want a treat? Want a treat? Oh, pausing the stream to deal with my bug. Here, buddy. Come on. Come on. Come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. Here you go, buddy. Good boy. Sorry about that, guys. If I don't actually deal with that, he can really, really hurt himself. He can really, really hurt himself. I know, pug life, right? Pug life. Oh, sorry, Cotton. It was a 2. It was a 2. Yep. We were doing a 2 today. Today is gonna be the day that we're gonna come back to you. Oh, Mr. Milo. Okay, buddy. Okay, buddy. Yeah, you see that? Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. He's got a hard palate that he actually literally starts choking on. And all he's got to do is swallow, right? But he's a dog, so he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. No, he doesn't understand. He's too stupid. Yes. But we love him anyway. I know. No, it's pretty brutal. Well, and one of the things that's happening with my little guy right now is over COVID, me and my ex, we came to realize that we've been overfeeding him, and so he's actually way overweight. So he's on a little diet right now, and we're gonna get that fixed up for him. Little diet should actually help him out a lot. Blackpilling. All right. Hold on. We're going back to this. Syria is the cradle of civilization. We're dropping bombs on it. Daily losing tons of history. You bet, man. Oh, yeah. Like, during the invasion of Iraq, I knew a professor. I was in university at the time. And I knew a professor that was keeping track of all of the historical monuments that were lost over the invasion of Iraq. The Code of Hammurabi was lost during the invasion of Iraq. Like, really think about this. Like, the Code of Hammurabi is like one of the very first legal documents that we have as a people. It was a codified set of laws that we had on a tablet. A really important document for humanity and for our understanding. And during the Iraq War, it went missing. Right? I don't know if it's turned up again, but yeah, please hit like, share, subscribe, do all the bells, do all the whistles. If you've got a couple of dollars jangling around in your pocket, guys, you can hit the button down below. Also, my Patreon, right? All that kind of stuff. Oh yeah. Ancient languages and all that are super cool. Okay, what are we looking at here? Oh, I love it. Stone-built Neolithic settlement located on the Bay of Scale on the west coast of the mainland. Okay, of mainland. The largest island in the Orkney archipelago of Scotland, consisting of 10 clustered houses made of flagstones and earthen dams. Ah. Oh yeah, this looks like just like a village. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. The Discord is lots of fun. For those of you who are not in the Discord, right, the Discord's very active. I'm actually surprised at how active it is. You guys are wonderful. Wonderful in the Discord. Always sharing more, always finding out more, always doing more. It's older than Stonehenge. Well, that makes sense. Like, it makes sense that we would have, like, there's this hilarious... So the great mystery of Stonehenge, right, was always, like, how did they do it? How did they make Stonehenge, right? And Stonehenge really proves, to me at least, that we as a people really underestimate what ancient civilizations were capable of, right? And you see this with like the conversation around Egypt as well. Like, how did they build the pyramids? So complex. Must have been aliens. Look at Woodhenge. What the heck? What's Woodhenge? Woodhenge. Neolithic timber monument. Oh, hey, okay. But like, there's a fellow who has been a construction worker making Stonehenge. There's a guy who's been making Stonehenges. Yeah, a construction worker from Michigan named Wally Wallington. Gotta love this, eh? Came up with his own method for making the monument, and has proven it can work by building a Stonehenge in his own backyard. Right? What's so funny about this is that, like, when I was growing up, there was always like this mystery going around about how did they build it? Couldn't have possibly been a thing. All this kind of stuff. But this guy's like, no, I can do it. I can build Stonehenges, right? And if just like a construction worker in his backyard can make Stonehenge, right? Then yeah, they definitely could. The only thing that it has become like really not mysterious but impressive about Stonehenge is that the stones that they're using are not part of the region, so they had to have like shipped it in. What do I think of Graham Hancock, all that Younger Dryas impact stuff? I don't know what Younger Dryas is referring to, but Graham Hancock I like a lot. Like, what I like about Graham Hancock goes like into kooky territory with the alien stuff, I think, sometimes. Which is fine. Like, what are we doing here? We're going into kooky places with the alien stuff. But like, his research in regards to Egyptology, right, and the pyramids and all of this, I think is solid, right? I'm just glad that there's guys like Graham Hancock out there, right? Like, you guys know me. If you follow this for any length of time, you really begin to realize that, like, I'm completely fine if people want to go off into left field, right? Like when Jimmy Dore and Max Blumenthal, right, went off into left field with the COVID stuff, right? I was like, great, off you go, right? I don't mind, doesn't bother me. Like, people have treated it as if it's like, oh, they've discredited themselves and they're doing. I'm like, nah, that's you do that. That's what you do when you're pursuing leads and you're pursuing ideas and you're skeptical of what's going on in the world, right? And you go off into left field and you follow a hunch, right? And as long as you're willing to accept that sometimes when you go off on the lead and you follow the hunch, it's not going to materialize anything, and you're willing to admit that when it doesn't, right? That's fine. That's completely fine. Right? And I feel like it's the same thing with someone like Graham Hancock. Like, Graham Hancock is fascinated in ancient cultures and civilizations, and he wants to know more about the reality of what occurred in those cultures. Graham Hancock wrote a really good book called Supernatural and Fingerprints of the Gods, right? Which I've read both of those books. And he has some very convincing evidence and some very convincing arguments. His stuff on Joe Rogan as well. Like, he was a regular guest for a little while on Joe Rogan, and those were really interesting talks. I wish that Rogan would platform more of those kinds of guys. Like, Rogan's sort of shifted over to being like basically bro dude shit now. So I haven't seen really anything interesting. There was indeed a Younger Dryas extinction event. The crater is proven to be in Greenland a couple of years ago. Graham Hancock and company alludes to the idea that this extinction event wiped out a civilization, Atlantis, or world order that existed before Sumer. Rad, man. Like, I like Graham Hancock's argument that that there is likely some kind of mother civilization, or that there is something going on in Antarctica. Makes sense to me, right? That, like, Google Maps. You guys know I love Google Maps. Go away. Go away. Ariana, go away. Like, we all know about Pangea, right? How the Earth was like one landmass initially, right? That you could see Africa connects in pretty closely here, right? That all of this was actually closer together and has slowly been drifting away. And it's actually, as time goes forth, it's possible that we're going to see like connection moments here, where like the land masses are going to actually come back around the other side. And so all of a sudden the United States is going to like cradle right in, and the United States and China are going to have a big old kiss. It's going to be like, mwah, with one another. Won't that be fun? Right? Won't that be fun? I'm sure that'll be completely peacefully. But Hancock says, like, okay, so here's Antarctica, right? Big old chunk of ice. Well, we have maps of, I think it's over in this area. Could be, I don't remember one way or the other. But we have maps people were making, and they were putting a landmass just kind of right over here. Right? Just like a landmass right over here. Just being like, hey, there's land over here. Right? We're, of course, over up in here. And so he theorizes that this landmass steadily drifted down into the Antarctic area and just got absorbed into the ice shell, right? So it could very well be that if we were to dig into Antarctica, we would find signs of a lost civilization there, right? Earth is so crazy complex, dude. I wish that we were investing like all of our energy into all of this stuff. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I was talking about, Famina. There's a map found before people really knew about Antarctica. Shows it without ice too. Like, I just wish we were investigating our universe, and not our universe, but our Earth. Like, I wish that we were as enthralled with our Earth as we were with the, like, Kardashians. You know what I mean? Like, I wish that we were more interested in what's going on underneath the ocean than we were with fucking Kim Kardashian. I wish everybody knew who Paul the Octopus was instead of, like, Chloe. Who gives a shit about these people, right? Like, who cares at all? Like, they could not be less relevant, you know? Like, a dolphin matters more, in my perspective. And I just wish that we were spending all our time learning more about the world that we lived in. The Voynich manuscript. Let's go. Cha-cha-cha. Let's go. Oh, thank you guys for coming on this journey today. I could use a fun one today, man. I gotta tell you, it's so easy to fall into, like, the dour, like, communism. You know what I mean? Like, the Earth is terrible, and everybody's suffering, and everything is terrible, and our leadership sucks, and nothing's gonna happen. Oh, like, we know. So thanks for coming on this particular journey with me into Funtown, where today we're looking up fun stuff about the Earth that perhaps we didn't know. The Voynich manuscript is an illustrated codex, handwritten in an otherwise unknown writing system, referred to as Voynichese. The vellum on which it is written has been carbon dated to the early 15th century, so on and so forth. Origins, debated. Okay, but why do I care about this? The manuscript, 240 pages, yup, has been studied, including, okay, but, like, why do I care about this? Like, they're like, yeah, we studied it. It's like a thing. Like, I don't know why I'm supposed to care about this document, is what I think I'm trying to run at. Here we go. The overall impression given by the surviving leaves of the manuscript is that it was meant to serve as a pharmacopoeia or to address topics in medieval and early modern medicine. However, the puzzling details of the illustrations have fueled many theories about the book's origins, with the context of the text and the purpose for which it was intended. The first section of the book is almost certainly herbal, but attempts have been failed to identify the plants. I mean, many of them probably no longer exist. Either with the actual specimen or the stylized drawings of the contemporaneous herbals. I mean, this is something that I've absolutely learned talking to people who are foragers and herbalists and things like this. They're literally like, the earth produces things for you to eat that will heal you, right? Right? Like, you don't, like, all this modern medicine, all this kind of stuff, like, capitalism trying to put anything into a pill to sell it to you, right? But, like, the earth is constantly shitting out medicine at your face. Like, constantly. You just need to know what it is, right? And we are purposefully, like, we're going to read Macbeth for the 58th time, but we're not going to actually learn about local plants or anything, right? The Younger Dryas extinction wiped out a bunch of mammals in North America. Did you know North America used to have camels? This is where they originated from. They migrated to Asia. No kidding. The Bering Strait is 55 miles long. The longest bridge is 10 miles long. Made by China, of course. We could easily connect Alaska and Russia. Yeah. Like, and I mean, or we could just wait, grinning. Just wait. Just give it a couple thousand years, right? Those two will connect with one another, all by themselves. Can't be deciphered even with computers working 24/7. I mean, 110 mile. Wow, that's a lot more. But just give it a minute. Just give it a minute. Marsupials originated in South America. Oh yeah, dude. Like, we're all just like this is what kills me about, like, the racists in the society, right? Like, we're such a hodgepodge of like craziness. Like, this whole thing is as crazy as it can be. Like, the people who are walking around being like, we're the best type of thing because we have the skin color. It's just like, you're just as stupid as it can get, right? Like, it doesn't get dumber than that. That, like, not only do you have some kind of conception of supremacy, right? You've got this conception of supremacy in the first place, which is weird. Like, what? But in what universe do you think, like, yes, the white race is the superior race on this, like, rock that you're flying around the sun on? Like, as if it fucking matters at all, right? As if it has any kind of, like, meaning to anyone, anywhere, ever. Like, it's so fucking stupid. And, like, you find out these stories of, like, we originated from Africa, and then we came all over, and they're marsupials. They originated in South America, and it's all just like a hodgepodge of everything, where we're constantly blowing all over the place, and we're just so hyper focused on these, like, lines we drew on the map, you know? Like, we're so hyper focused on, like, well, we drew a line here. Talk about, like, the Russia-Ukraine war going on here. Like, I keep having this conversation over and over and over again where people are literally like, Russia stepped over that line. That line that exists is really what matters. That's the thing that matters the most, is this invisible line that we drew. Like, nah, probably not, bro. Like, it's probably the lives of the Russians. Like, it's probably the people who exist in the Donbass area, right? Like, it probably has something to do with just basic, you know, connection to humanity, stuff like this. But the line in this that we drew, that's the thing that matters the most. That's the thing. Like, is it, though? Really? Like, all of these lines are just, like, they exist just for, like, base organizational reasons. Like, they're not hard and firm. You know what I mean? Like, they're negotiable. They're permeable. They're wiggly, right? Like, in the United States, when during World War II, there was a huge amount of immigration that went to the United States, and while there was, like, this anti-immigrant idea, like, there was nothing the United States could do about it. Like, this is the thing that I think is so funny, is that, like, the U.S. talks this game about how, like, we're going to close our borders and make sure no one gets in and all this. And I'm literally like, yeah, that's a profound misunderstanding of how humanity and, like, life itself works. Like, you can't stop it. If 100 million people come to the United States and land on the shore, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. They're just here. Like, they're just here. Like, And I feel like that's actually what's going on here in Canada and the United States in regards to the housing crises, is that we know we're about to experience like a mass immigration. Like climate refugees are going to come to Canada and the United States. Like for sure. There's going to be a huge amount of it that occurs, right? And so the rich are buying up all the property, right? The speculative investors, so that they can have it. But then also, like, we got to build like tons and tons and tons and tons of housing. Why? Because there's millions and millions of people who are just going to come. And they're not going to ask permission. They're not going to fill out the paperwork, right? They're not going to do any of that. They're going to come and they're going to land on the shore, and then they're going to be like, well, I guess this is Canada. Let's work it out, right? Like that's what's coming. It's like they're not going to apply, you know. And if we spend all our time attempting to deport them and send them back, then that's all we're going to spend our money on. That's all we're going to spend our time doing, right? No. Like it's going to be like during the World Wars, right? We're just going to have to let them in. We're just going to have to. We're not going to have another option. And the people who are saying that we do have another option, usually Nazis. So, because it's all fake. Like all the borders and all that kind of bullshit, like it doesn't really exist, right? It's just sort of like a gentle agreement that like, okay, we've drawn a line and you can have like jurisdiction over that territory and that idea, right? But like it's not like if like aliens landed, they wouldn't be like, oh well, got it, not, this is the line. Like nah. North of Xinjiang, the borders between China, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and Russia form an X. I found a peak there called Friendship Peak. Strenuous treks up a snowy mountain. Well, no, I don't think that's where you were describing, though. Maybe there's more than one Friendship Peak. In either case, this is lovely no matter what. Friendship Peak. That's so nice. But, like, this is where you're talking about right here, isn't it? Right? This area forms an X. It's got to be a mountain. Friendship Peak. Ba-ba-ba-ba. So there's more than one Friendship Peak, which I think is very charming. Friendship Peak. And that's fun, man. Like Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Russia, China, they all, like, all of their borders come up to this mountain range, right? And what have they called it? Friendship Peak. It touches my heart. It touches my heart. Right? Like, can you imagine, like, what would we call this in North America? Like, we would call this, like, I don't know, it'd be like Geronimo's hangman's noose or something. It would be something dumb, right? That's what we would do. We would always be like the Battle of Bargy was fought here, so this is Bargy's Mountain. Yeah, we need more Friendship Peaks. That's right, dude. Absolutely. Boy, howdy. We all need more loving in this world. We all need more loving in this world. You can look high and low, but there's no place left to go. We all need more loving in this world. We all need more friendship in this world. We all need some friendship in this world. You can look high and low, but there's no place left to go. We all need some friendship in this world. That's a beautiful song. With food and water shortages, how long before America decides to invade us? Yeah, bro. Like, what's like? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I actually am generally of the opinion that the United States is not like an invasion of the United States into Canada is 100% like full on crazy mode, right? Full on crazy mode. Like if you want to talk about alienating Europe, if you want to talk about alienating everybody away from I didn't realize there was a dance, but alienating everybody away from the United States, it would be to invade Canada. Like the relationship between the United States and Canada is like the relationship between like No Heart and Beastly, right? Like they're like that we're like the little toady for the United States. And like there is gonna come a time when like the United States, like Canada's gonna be its only ally. Like when everyone else is gonna be like, these guys are fucking nuts, right? And we're just gonna basically be there to like kind of like pretty bird, please stop killing everybody, right? Or, you know, at least don't kill us. That's the true Canadian position, right? Like this is something that Canadians don't like to admit. But the reason why we go along with the United States when it destroys everything, right? The reason why they go along with everything when they destroy everything is because our position is, look, if the United States is fighting you, it's not fighting us. That's really what it is, right? And I just imagine, like, I always have this, like, latent script in the back of my head that I always feel like one day I'm going to sit down and actually write. And it's this, there's a character in it called Erica, right? She's the protagonist, but she's the main character. And her name is Erica, and of course she always says, I'm Erica. So, I'm Erica, America. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. And then she's going to have a friend named Candace, right? Candace, Canada, right? And the whole thing is going to be about the United States destroying its prestige on the world stage, right? And how self-destructive Erica is. And how tied up in Erica's self-immolation and self-destruction Canada actually is. And I always have this this vision in the back of my... so at the end of the whole thing, Erica is going to be sitting there with Candace, and they're both completely isolated, thrown out of the party, like everything's gone completely wrong for them. But Erica's still like, no, we're great. We're the greatest, right? And besides, and Erica's sitting there with Candace. She wraps her hand around Candace. She goes, and besides, we've still got each other. And Candace goes, yeah, that's right. And then Erica just like wraps her hand around the back of Candace's neck, and they just stare off into the night. And that's the end of it. Because that's the relationship between Canada and the United States. That Canada is largely drawn in to the craziness the United States does, because we don't have another choice. Like, which isn't to absolve Canada. Like, Canada's its own sort of imperialist mindset, and already this kind of nut. Yeah, and we've already been invaded by American money and culture. Yeah, and the American culture has although that's not completely true, right? That is not completely true. Like, there was one article I found that really, I love these searches I'm doing, dude. Octopus or aliens, construction worker building. Okay. But come on, John. I'm perfect at this. I saw an article that was talking about Canadians' opinion of abortion. Like, given what's going on, and most Canadians are here you go. Most Canadians support the right to choose to have an abortion, right? It's as high as 80% in some places, right? Like, about 4 in 5 respondents to an online survey by Ledger and the Association for Canadian Studies say they're in favor of a woman's right to abortion. Like, so this seems to be a pretty major cultural divide that exists. It looks as though that while Canada does have the kind of crazy, kooky Christians, they haven't really taken over in the same kind of way. So we are different. There are differences, right? And Canadians tend to look at European nations, they aren't looking completely to the United States. So culturally, there are differences and there are divides, but we'll see how the trend goes, right? I tend to think that Canada leans towards the United States in terms of trends. That things will happen in the United States and then 5 years later they'll happen in Canada. So there's like this echoing reverberation that occurs. Meanwhile, while this is going on, all right, by popular request, man, I haven't played this one in 2 weeks. Burn yourself out for dollar bills. Kill your children for a few cheap thrills. You got a problem, well that's too bad. You're too tired to see you've been had, yeah. Work or starve while we drop bombs. No such thing as right or wrong. We'll call you lazy while you work to death. You gotta earn yourself a moment of rest, and I won't work for a psychopath nation. No, I won't work for a psychopath nation. Burn those corpses so you can speed. Buy that garbage you don't need. We'll play the victim while you lose your grip. Why won't they work in the apocalypse? Yeah, retreat into your stupid lies. You act confused while your children cry. Promise change but act the same. You gaslight, deflect and take no blame. And I won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, I won't work for a psychopath nation. As we collapse into the devil's lap, as we watch the world burn to ash, you'll whine like bitches on your way to the grave. Why won't those serfs just behave? Yeah, you fucking vampires, demons and ghouls. We're done with being treated like fools. The curse is lifted, we're free from your spell. Keep on crying while you burn in hell, 'cause we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, we won't work for a psychopath nation. That one's for you, pissed off bud. I know you like that one. It's I think that's your favorite of all the stuff I play. Oh man, I want to play another one. I'm gonna play some of the stuff that I haven't played in a while. You know, here, let's just play one. Not that one. God, I haven't played this one in months. So if this sucks, please forgive me. Done nothing wrong except fight for his people by upholding their laws. The men with the money wanted to be free, so they nailed Jesus Jesus up onto a tree, and no, it's not right, no, it's not fair. Never forget the cross good men bear. He was a man who done nothing wrong except teaching his people they could be strong. The men with the money, they wanted their slaves, so they showed Malcolm to an early grave. No, it's not right. No, it's not fair. Never forget the cross good men bear. He was a man who done nothing wrong except fight for his people by singing their songs. The men with the money had bought the whole town. With judges and lawyers, they shot Joe Hill down. No, it's not right. No, it's not fair. And never forget the cross good men bear. Whoa. Yeah, that one was a lot better than I remembered it. That one's a lot better than I remembered it. Yeah, I hope you guys like that one. Hey, Bumble, how you doing, bud? Igor, how you doing? I think it's impossible to share all of the benefits equally. I mean, yeah, like, it's never going to be equal, right? But the level of inequality is absurd, right? There's this great video that comes out of the... It's not the Gravel Institute. Oh, that's going to really bother me. Oh, that's really going to bother me. Income inequality in Canada. Oh, video. Come on. Oh, it's literally the Broadbent Institute, right? And I can't show the whole video, of course, but I can show the things that really matter, right? So, like...
Be divided.
This is what Canadians perceive as ideal, right? The ideal distribution. And you can see that, like, when polled, most Canadians, and I think most people, are of the opinion that well, the society shouldn't be equal, right? There should be a wealth distribution that is not inherently... Like, and it does make a certain type of sense. Like, I know for myself, all things being equal, right? I would not pursue, and I'm not pursuing a path of wealth. Like, I'm not really interested in it. Like, if it was up to me, I'd just be happy, like, having my rent paid, like, having the bills paid, like, existing in the world, right? Doing stuff for my community, all that kind of stuff. So I happily, I'd be on this side, and you can see, right? That for the ideal wealth distribution in Canada, most people are like, okay, yeah, you should have something, right? And then up here, like, so this is like double, right? There's this idea that, like, you could be like this and I can have double, And that makes sense, right? And then they ask him, okay, how Canadians think it's distributed, right? So still, right? No, and of course, and you'll never find that. Like, there's no such thing as a truly, it's never going to be that way, right? It's just not. Like, there's too much complexity in the system for that to occur. But you can see how people want it to be, how they think it is, and how it actually is. And be like, that's a pretty major discrepancy, right? So this is how people think wealth is distributed, right? You see, that's different. So people are like, okay, but while this is the ideal, we're sitting here being like, okay, this is what we want. We accept that, like, this is what it is, right? Much more unequal, right? Instead of being twice as wealthy, someone is like 3 or 4 times more wealthy, right? But then this is actually what it is, right? Hold on, where is it? Boom. This is actually how it is, right? Right? Notice the massive difference on the bottom end. Like, notice the massive difference on the bottom end, right? Like, and what's grotesque about this, in my perspective, is that the wealth that's gained by the people, and this goes off the chart, right? The wealth that's gained by these people doesn't change their quality of life at all, right? It doesn't change their quality of life at all. And to take this wealth and distribute it downward, to get this, like, for real, guys, like, if the line was here, like, if the people at the very bottom of the chain were sitting here, right? If they were sitting like this, we wouldn't have a problem, right? We just wouldn't have a problem. People would gripe and complain, as we always do, because it's like part of what we are and part of our pastime as a species. We love to complain, right? But, like, if this is how much wealth that people had in comparison to this, we wouldn't have a problem. No one would be talking. No one would be complaining, right? That, sure, there would be things to point at, and sure, there would be things to work out, but we wouldn't be in the high-level crisis that we are in, right? Why are we in the high-level crisis that we're in? Because this is the actual distribution. And look, poorest 10% own basically nothing. The next percentile own almost nothing. And, like, you get up into your idea of there being a middle class. There's no middle class. What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? And so, and this is old. This is old. This is from 2014. So this has gotten much worse. This has gotten much, much, much worse as we've ignored this issue completely, right? And so it's all well and good to say, well, you can't make it equal, but that's a straw man. It's not what's being argued for. No communist, no socialist, nobody is walking around being like, we need to make this purely equal 100%. It's not only is it unrealistic, it's unwanted, right? It's unwanted. And for exactly the reasons why Igor is saying, right? And I don't know if I buy into this argument completely, but, like, people who have a higher qualification for more money, for example, doctors and IT have more money, sure, right? I would argue that, like, basketball players and football players make more money than these guys, and they don't really, like, what's their qualification, right? Catching a ball, entertaining us, I guess. Like, at the highest level, entertainers make way more money than the most useful citizens. Yeah, and Ligandese is correct to point this out. Those are still workers, right? Those are still people who are doing tasks and doing jobs. The actual owners of the society, right? The actual owners of the society, the investors, do nothing, right? That they just own wealth. That's all they do. They're not a doctor. They're not an IT person. They're not involved in this. They're just an investor. They just have a lot of money in the first place. And so they can turn around and use that money by withholding it, right? That's the capitalist model, is to create false scarcity. And that's what the capitalists do, and they've done it with currency. They've done it with money. And so, we gotta kind of get over these sorts of things. And I'd like to talk also on the Scandinavian model. The reason why the Scandinavian model exists is because it was a concession by the capitalist class under the threat of communist revolution. That's how you get your Scandinavian models, right? You can't vote in. You can't vote in social democracy. It's not possible. The capitalists will never allow you to vote in social democracy. Doesn't work that way, right? They capitulate to social democracy as a compromise between overt, ridiculous capitalism and communist revolution, right? That the only time the capitalists will allow a social democracy to exist is under threat of revolution. So we got to get to it. Like if you want your Scandinavian model, right, then the way to do that is to foment a revolution in the country. Oh yeah, here's a good one.
Shoot a rich man into space, you gotta get ahead of the human race, 'cause we're the lazy ones working at the end of your nukes and your guns, and we don't even care. Bring on the doom, light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. God let his chosen ones wander forever in the burning sun, and 10 times worse the fate for us. Forget him, worship the dust, but we don't even care. Bring on the doom, light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. Baptize us with rising tides, never let us see what hides inside, and cover our sins with dollar signs. The fire will burn away our pride, and we could have done anything at all. We could have done anything at all. We could have done anything at all, and we chose this. You don't even care. Bring on the doom, light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. We don't even care. Bring on the doom, light up this apocalypse, we'll be going soon. Yeah, we'll be going soon.
And then the USSR people can't protest against government. I mean, one could make the argument that in a functioning democracy, why would anyone need to protest against the government? That if the democratic structure was actually working, the protesters would be part of the government, right? Victini, how you doing, bud? Yeah, and under capitalism, the government doesn't have to listen to protests. That's exactly what it is. Like, the United States government does not listen to what protesters say or think. Or like, literally, like, there's just, like, no correlation between what the population wants and what the capitalist democracies produce. Like, there's just no correlation whatsoever. Like, take a look at the United States and the Medicare for All conversation, right? Medicare for All has, like, or like, you know, universal health care as it's called everywhere else, or single payer if you prefer. Like, it has overwhelming support, even amongst Republicans, right? Like, it has overwhelming support within the populace. It's an extremely popular idea, and it can't happen, right? USSR bought millet from Canada in US in 70 and 80 because of plan. Okay. Nobody has ever defined Soviet for Igor. Once you understand what a Soviet is, the complaints about powerlessness are defeated. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, the whole structure of the Soviet experiment was basically just like a series of councils, right? Like, it was like a series of smaller councils or unions, as we might understand them, right? And that would actually negotiate up, and then they would create like a larger structure, and then that structure would negotiate, and then that came up to the federal level, right? Like, people call Stalin a dictator when they want to admit that they're fucking stupid, right? Just because it wasn't Westminster parliamentary democracy doesn't mean it didn't have a democratic structure to it. Right? It's the same as in China. Like, yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. I'm not feeling like any of the softer stuff today. I feel like I want to be a little harder today. Yeah, the USSR was wealthy enough to buy grain from the West? Shocking. Yeah, I don't really get the point. Like, countries buy stuff from each other all the time. All right, I'm gonna play this one just because I'm looking at it and I'm like, God, I haven't played this one in forever. I know I just said I didn't want to play one of the softer ones. I'm forgetting how the whole thing goes. Oh my God. Done with dreaming of what life could have been. We kept our heads buried in the sand. Now that it's over, we never made a scene. Of course, our leaders have it all in hand. How will you witness the end of the world? I hope you'll bring a friend. Say, will you join me to watch our crops burn? The grapes light up like candles on the vine. Why sell yourself for money that you'll never earn? Why keep on pretending this is fine? How will you witness the end of the world? I hope you'll bring a friend. Shed no more tears for our collective fate. Just live for what today might bring. What's to be said to those who choose to wake up late? What gentle words will cover up the sting? How will you witness the end of the world? I hope you'll bring a friend. How will you witness the end of the world? I hope you'll bring a friend. Yeah, color revolution, CIA, yes, yeah. Protest in these enemy countries usually means color revolution, CIA coup. Yeah, Ligandese absolutely laying it out.
just because Americans call them communists and they identify as communists doesn't mean they are communists. There are workers' councils in Gazprom. Yeah. They murdered the Soviets, yeah. I missed the fun, not serious stream for once. Yeah, I mean, we gotta have it, dude. Can we have Wacky Wednesdays? Anything goes as long as it's not serious for a mental health break? I mean, Wacky Wednesdays. I like it, dude. Wacky Wednesdays. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it is true, and it's something that I have been thinking about more and more, that, like, it can't all just be dour, right? Like, we can't just be like, oh, right? Like, and I don't know, maybe formalizing it's not a bad idea. Stalin had the Mensheviks killed. Oh yeah, for sure, dude. Like, Stalin is worthy of critique for sure. Like, I think that there are things that are wrongly, that he's critiqued for incorrectly. But there are things that, like, when you think about the land reforms and the kulaks, right? Like, that really was like Stalin wanted to do that. And I don't think that it has been fully explored as to why he felt that now was the time, right? Like, he writes a fairly, I don't want to use the word rudimentary, but fairly kind of straightforward document that kind of justifies what he was doing with the kulaks in Marxian kind of principles. But there were a lot of people around him who were very much like, oh wow, like this is going to be a big endeavor, right? And so, like, my question for Stalin at that time would be like, why does it have to be right now? Like, why are we doing this right now? Like, what's going on with this? Like, what's the pressure? What's the feeling? And I just gotta believe that Stalin was taking it personally, you know? Like, I gotta believe that he was taking a look at the plight of the Batats, who were the underclass that nobody gives a shit about or talks about here, the working class basically, and looking at them and saying, this is wrong. Like, this is wrong what we're seeing, and wanted to do something about it. And this Stalin had the Mensheviks killed. I like, you're talking about the Great Purge, right? I mean, I've seen pretty credible evidence that shows that, like, the Mensheviks were tied in with the assassination of Kirov, right? So, like, or was it Sergei Kirov? So it's like, yeah. It's a muddy situation, and my brother recently had a talk with me, and he was like, John, you sound so certain when you talk about these things. And it's like, no, I'm not certain. Like, I'm not certain. I think that the people who have been talking about these things are certain, right? Like, how many times have we talked to these capitalists who just certainly say communism doesn't work and all this kind of stuff? Like, sorry, I'm trying to dismantle the certainty. I'm trying to infuse into the conversation a little bit of doubt, right? And especially doubt surrounding someone like Stalin, right? Like, the more I learn about Stalin, the more I read about him, the more I see a man who was really thrust into this incredible position during an incredible period of time and made mistakes and did crazy things. Was he like an evil, dark psychopath? I don't think so. Especially when you consider, like, what was going on in America, right, at the time. And you're right to bring up Grinning. Like, Manifest Destiny killed a lot of Native Americans, right? Like, there were very, like, you want to take a look at the dark shit that was going on. It's not happening in the Soviet Union, right? Like, sure, there's, like, troubled times, as there always are, but, like, Stalin didn't, like, round up an ethnicity and gas chamber them, right? He didn't, like, create purges of people based on their ethnicity. Like, if the worst thing that we're going to peg Stalin with is that he had some political adversaries killed, pretty low level, frankly. Like, pretty low level. Like, not great, obviously, but pretty low level. I mean, like, and what's astounding to me, right? What's astounding to me is that in almost every conversation that I've seen between a capitalist and a communist, they'll always bring this up.
And I'm really getting to the point now where I'm just going to happily say to these guys, like, if I ever get into a conversation with one of these capitalists and they bring up, like, the atrocities of communism, I'm literally going to look at them and be like, I have no idea why capitalists think this is a good idea to bring this up into the conversation, because it's such a slam dunk from the communist side, right? Like, it's like, it really does show that the capitalists are detached and a bit stupid, frankly, for throwing this stone communism's way, when capitalism has literally no leg to stand on. Like, literally no leg to stand on in the conversation. Like, capitalism is born of genocide and slavery. That's how it works. That's its default position. That's what it's incentivized to produce, and always has produced. Like, there's no and like there's no counter argument to this, right? The genocide of the First Nations people, the enslavement of the black population, right? World War I, World War II, like the nuclear bombardment of the Japanese. Like, I like, what do you need? Like, what do you need? No communist society has produced these sorts of results. No, like, you can point at things that, like, oh, well, this guy did this kind of dingy, underhanded thing, and there's this scandal, and there's this political conflict, and all this kind of, sure, right? Sure. Did anybody round up the Jews? Did anybody, was there a nuclear bombardment? Like, is there any of that shit going on? No. It's not even close. It's not even close. Right? And now you've got, like, DeSantis in Florida. DeSantis is starting to pass legislation. DeSantis is the governor of Florida. He's passing legislation to teach victims of communism in schools. So it's just outright anti-communist education, right? Indoctrination, really. Oh yeah, and if you investigate these capitalist core beliefs a bit, you'll likely find xenophobia in one form or another. Of course, you can't commit a genocide against a people if you're empathetic towards them, right? Like, you can't enslave black people if you think they're people, right? And if you read Cotton is King, which I highly suggest you do, they didn't think black people were people. And, like, Jim Crow laws, like, they were like 3/5 a person, right? Milo, buddy, there's no peanut butter, okay? No peanut butter. Deal with it. You got treats all over, dude. You got treats all over. I got this little pug looking at me being like, I need all of the food. And unfortunately, he's on a diet, so it's, like, really, really bad for him. Really, really bad for him. All right, we're going to clear this out. Let's do a bit of a rapid fire here, guys. I do have articles. I'm going to try to keep it light. It is Wacky Wednesday, after all. I mean, U.S. overdose deaths hit record 107,000 last year, CDC says. Yeah, no shit. Like, oh, I can't imagine what's going on. We're abandoning huge sections of the population. I can't imagine what's going on, and just, like, throwing drugs into the place. And, like, this is what's so funny about this in the abortion context, right? That, like, there's this argument coming out of the Christian right that's saying, like, every sperm is sacred. Every sperm is good, right? But they do absolutely nothing for the people who are actually alive, right? If you're a person who's actually alive walking around in the world, get fucked, get a job, right? And there's this narrative going around that says, well, the United States needs people to have babies, and especially desperate people, because those people are more likely to join the military, right? It's more likely that they'll actually be able to fuel their military machine and their military ambitions this way. Meanwhile, like, overdose deaths are like 107,000. It's like, what about those people? You don't want to actually try to help those people out and try to make sure that those people aren't offing themselves? Oh well, okay. Forget about making a nice place that people want to live in. Forget about that, right? Fortunately, like, NDP motion calling on liberals to reintroduce disability benefit legislation passes House unanimously. I mean, come on. We got to do something about this. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this to me is like, you want a sign that we live in, like, a fallen society. It's the fact that we're looking at our disabled people and saying, live in poverty and desperation. Completely unnecessary. Meanwhile, corporate profits are skyrocketing. Never been higher. Never been higher. Like, literally give your money to the poor. Like, I don't know how to communicate this any sharper, right? Give your money to the poor. Stop bullshitting us. And speaking of bullshitting, I think my favorite, we got Fed official. This is from Market Watch. So sorry about this stupid shit. I can't get rid of it. Fed official says he doesn't buy the Great Resignation. Suggests employers play up labor shortage to avoid paying higher wages. This one I am going to read because it's real short. Minneapolis Federal Reserve President Neil Kashkari says he doesn't really buy the Great Resignation, the term for the Americans who have quit their jobs in droves during the pandemic. Instead, it's more that people are leaving certain careers to seize better opportunities in others, Kashkari said during a talk Friday at the University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Management. Workers employed in long-haul trucking might be entertaining local driving jobs that keep them closer to their families, for example. And there's more to it, but like, no duh, right? You're literally like insulting people if they would. Oh, you're just a burger flipper. Oh, get fucked, right? Go get a better job. And it's okay, so they did. And well, nobody wants to work anymore. Do you guys think that our society has become like a parody of itself? Like, I really do think this. I think this way that I keep saying that we're going to enter a period of absurdism, right? Like of Dadaism, where things are just rendered absurd, because it's like life itself has become just an absurdist drama. Like there's no rules anymore. You don't need to think about facts or evidence or any of that kind of stuff anymore. It doesn't matter at all, right? Like, you can just believe whatever you want to believe, and if somebody attempts to contradict them or show you, not forget about contradict them, but just show you evidence to the contrary, you can just ignore them, right? Literally saying things like Russian propaganda, right? You can just go Russian propaganda and just ignore the evidence and ignore the facts. It's pretty shocking that we live in this sort of environment. Oh, absurd is the video I put in the Discord. Yes, you had mentioned that, bud. Sorry. In the videos. Dude. Oh, Bud.
I am Iron Man. Loki is beyond reason, but he is still of Asgard, and he is my brother.
He's killed millions of people.
He's adopted.
So, Tony, how much do we get paid, eh?
Nothing.
Yeah, that's not really gonna work for me, eh? I got bills to pay.
I come with glad tidings.
Sick helmet, dude. They're nailing these costumes. Dude. I used to be a fundamentalist Christian, right? I used to be, so I would go to these events, that they would have like these kinds of events, and they would put on these sorts of plays. And I gotta tell you, when you're watching them live, like, they're cheesy. Like, don't get me wrong, like, they're cheesy, but like lots of Christian stuff is cheesy as shit. But they're great. Like, they're great, dude. Like, you want to talk about like a real fun time, right? You go watch these things, and they're stupid. The messaging is like right on the fucking nose. Oh, wait till they crucify Iron Man, dude. What are you talking about?
It's the end of the world as we know it.
Oh, sorry guys, copyright. So I'm gonna take the sound off. Dude, they're crucifying Iron Man. Like, a group of Christians. Hold on. Time out. Wait a fucking minute. A group of Christians are crucifying Iron Man. Doesn't that kind of strike you as a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Heretical? Doesn't that strike you as a little bit heretical. It's the Passion of the Christ, but with Avengers characters. Dude, it's like explicit. It's like explicit now. They're just straight up, just like, let's take the Christian stories and use Marvel characters to just like, bro, that's they did one with Lion King, bro. Like, at least Lion King is a good story, right? Like, the Marvel shit is so bad. I can't even tell you how bad I think it is. I went on this little mini vacation with my sister and brother, and the whole time my sister and her husband were just like, oh, I love the Marvel stuff, and I just knew, no, keep your mouth shut. Like, keep your mouth shut. Don't talk about how shitty Marvel is. Like, the Marvel story is shitty. It's a shitty story, right? Blasphemy, there's the word. Thanks, Pissed Off. I was thinking heresy, but it's not quite heresy. It's blasphemy. That's right. This right here is the. Come on, where is it? Give me the shot. There it is. That's the shot. Come on. No, I like the other shot better. Okay, that's the shot. Look, this is just fucking apostasy. Yes, very good. Now we're digging deep. Right? Because, like, heresy is one thing, and then apostasy, an act of refusing to continue to follow or obey or recognize a religion or faith. No, this isn't apostasy. This is like this is using other characters. This is blasphemy. Like, I think it's straight up. Like, if we want to actually like ping it and be like right on the top of the head, right? Because blasphemy is blasphemy. Here we go. The act of offense or speaking sacrilegiously about God or sacred things. Profane talk. This is pretty profane, right? Yeah, sacrilegious. Yeah, sacrilege. Yeah, this is some good old-fashioned sacrilege. Dude. Yeah, the problem with Marvel is that it's awesome when you're 12. Yeah, exactly. Simple heroes, direct solutions. You're too young to see the propaganda. It's in your head. Well, and honestly, I don't think that the guys that were making this Marvel stuff were thinking about it I really do think that they were just like, it's a man who can jump over a building, and this guy's gonna have claws. Like, I really think that they were just like, very straightforwardly like, you know what's cool? Wizards and magic and superpowers and shit. And then Superman will go up against a dude who also has magic and shit. I really don't think that they were thinking about this shit any farther than this, right? I really don't. These guys are just telling very basic stories, right? That, like, for 12-year-olds, is, like, fairly inoffensive, in my view. Like, yeah, there's, like, mutants. And like, you can even make the argument that something like X-Men is actually like a pretty interesting kind of way to talk about ideas of segregation, right? Like, we're dealing with a white supremacist society, right? So you can't just come out and jam it on the nose and be like, there's a black person and there's a white person and they're segregated, right? So instead you tell this story of how there are mutants, right, who have magic powers and cool shit, and you're like, yeah, magic powers and cool shit, right? But they've been segregated from their society, right? And they're treated differently, and people are scared of them and want to pass laws against them. It's, to me, X-Men has always been about a conversation surrounding the subject of segregation. And the conversation that exists between Magneto and Professor X is the conversation that exists between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Right? Like, really. take a look at the conversation that exists between Professor X and Magneto, and really recognize, even in the movies, right? Like, those are the talking points that exist between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Are they completely whitewashed and obviously tilted in the direction of the white supremacist option? Yeah, obviously. But those are the archetypes. Those are the themes, right? Captain America. No. Don't get me wrong. Like there are definitely propagandists who come into the conversation for sure. Like, I'm not gonna fight you on that. But I think that the person who created Superman and like the Superman that went into the newspapers and then became popular was created because a dude was like, yeah, he's a guy with an S on his chest and tall buildings, all that kind of stuff. And sure, they got co-opted after the fact, for sure. No, that I don't think you can argue, right? Like, you could like see very clear propaganda, but like they initially aren't created with this idea. Like it's kid shit. Like, really, like it's kid shit. And like if I say the story of the Marvel Universe out loud, right, it sounds fucking dumb. Like, really fucking dumb. Like, they have 3 Iron Man movies, like 3 Thor movies, some Hulk movies, some Captain America movies, Ant-Man, all this kind of stuff. Introducing elements as they go along, right? Thanos is there with the snap and all of this, and it all comes up on this big giant apex so that they can just go back in time and retcon it. Who gives a shit? Like, it's probably one of the largest cop-outs in cinematic history. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you're sitting there being like, yeah, the Marvel shit was super good, like, I'm like, maybe it is time for you to read a book. Like, maybe it really is time. Like, if that's what you are thinking is the best that human art has to offer, if you're sitting there being like, this is so great, like, gotta tell you, man, like, it really is probably time to read a book. Like, it's time to go find other things. Like Neil Gaiman's Sandman is like heads, and I just like the Men in Tights. Can't argue on that, dude. Can't argue with that. Well, I hate all the modern superhero movies, just glorified extended episode of Power Rangers to me. And like, to me, I look at that Marvel shit and I'm just like, this looks just like a reaffirmation of the white supremacist society, right? Like, who's Tony Stark, right? Like, Tony Stark's not like a wise teacher. He's not like Christ, right? Like, he's not like any of that kind of stuff, right? Like, he's an arms dealer, right? Like, he's a weapons manufacturer. Like, this is the guy who we're, like, crucifying. This is the guy who we're supposed to be, oh, he sacrificed himself for the greater good and all. Like, this is the guy that we're all supposed to be like, oh, wow, yeah, I can't, Tony Stark, please. Like, the guy is a weapons manufacturer. Like, this is our hero. This is our great, like, this is the person who we're supposed to just be like, oh. And while you can, like, acknowledge the fact that he does like, he sacrifices himself in the end, right? And so you can kind of create the idea that he maybe has an arc, perhaps, but he doesn't actually learn anything or grow or change, right? Like, he sacrifices himself for all of the reasons that, like, but like, there's no actual conversation about why. There's no actual conversation about what matters in his life or any of that kind of stuff. Like, it's just as fluffy and on the surface as it can be. Right? Anyone remember the human ton from The Tick? The Tick was good shit, dude. That was good shit. Trying to draw superheroes in my youth resulted in a lot of study of human anatomy I never would have done. There you go. Black Panther was a great movie. But I feel like Black Panther sort of reaffirms what I've been saying about the fact that the Marvel movies exist to reinforce, like, white supremacy and general fascism across the globe. Like, black people get a movie now, right? But they're segregated in their own little society, right? They have their own internal blackness, right? And when they do come into the larger picture, it's to just make way for the whites, right? that the person who's sacrificing himself at the end is the White Knight, right? Like it's yeah, liberal reasons, Gwyneth Paltrow and his kids, yeah. Like there's no sense, and like again though, like they've completely retconned it. There's time travel. They fucking invented time travel. Like Tony, and like, are you kidding me with that? Like I'm sorry, man. Like Tony Stark literally, like people walked up to him and said, "We might be able to do time travel," and Tony Stark went, "Nah, that's okay." And then he turned around and like wrote on the board for 20 seconds and then walks out and says, "I did it." Like, shut up. Shut up. That's the laziest, most boring, stupidest writing I've ever seen in my life. Right? Like, for real. You're genuinely telling me that someone wrote on a piece of paper, and then Tony Stark invents time travel in 30 seconds. And a professional dramaturgist read it and went, yeah, that'll play at the apex. Final movie. It's the apex. It's the end of the trilogy. This is what we've been shooting towards. Right? This is what we've been ascending. All of these movies and this huge structure and all of this hype. So Tony Stark can just go, yeah, time travel exists now. So we're going to go back in time and solve that problem. Shut up. Like, it's so stupid. Like, it's so stupid. I just and the people who watch it and are just like, wow, fuck. The human ton from the Tick had a puppet on his hand that would yell, read a book. It was hilarious. Well, now we're doing it, dude. Now we're doing it. The Tick. The human ton. Oh yeah, I remember this guy. Dude. Handy the puppet. Dude. What a world we live in, man. What a world we live in. There's this so they did a live action version of The Tick. I don't know if you guys know. Live action of The Tick, which was probably one of the best casting decisions I've ever seen. It was this dude, right? And you could see like the outfit's pretty okay, like all that kind of stuff. But the show, it was on Fox, and the show gets canceled like very, very quickly. Because the writers basically give up on the show. And there's this character that exists in The Tick. His name is the Midnight Bomber, what bombs at midnight. That's his name, right? And as you can imagine, he says the word bomb a lot, right? And his whole thing is that he bombs things, right? He's constantly throwing bombs around and doing lots of bombing, right? Because he's the Midnight Bomber, what bombs at midnight. That's his shtick. And so they wrote this episode with the and like the Midnight Bomber is about as cartoonish a character as you can find, right? Like he's just like the Midnight Bomber, what bombs at midnight, dude. Like look at this guy. Right? Like look at this guy. He is a cartoon. Literally. But like also like if you were to do him as a real life thing, he would have to just be like a Jim Carreyan level of insanity. And they refused to allow the writers to use the word bomb. And they refused to actually show the guy setting bombs and using bombs. And it's just like, oh, that's the end of the show. Like, that's the end of the show. It's done, right? Or white rhythm and blues singers like Pat Boone. That we need black Ghostbusters or women Ghostbusters or Black Bond, yeah, or any of that kind of shit. Like it's completely disingenuous. It's completely disingenuous, right? Like and again, like if you want to use the Marvel shit as escapism, right? As Pissed Off here is saying, like that's fine. I don't care about at all. right? If what you're doing is going like, man, my life is hard and I could really go for just like, you know, stupid superhero shit and like, yeah, bibbity bobbity boo, stupid hero shit, right? But that's not what's happening, right? That's not what's happening. What I am seeing is I am seeing a culture of people that are bereft of ethical teaching, that are bereft of moral thought, that literally have no role models, and so their role models become morons like Peterson, right? Or Shapiro, because there's nobody in the conversation anymore that anybody gives a shit about, right? And so you've got a bunch of people who are trying to find their ethics and trying to find morality and trying to find a way to understand the world. And instead of watching this overt, obvious tripe, which, fine, like if you want to watch Marvel stuff and be like laser beams and Thor with a hammer, that's fine, right? No, I don't care about that. But people are drawing their ethics from this. People are drawing their morality from this, right? That there are like ethical conversations and moral conversations that happen surround, and like if that's what you're doing to the Marvel stuff, then you're essentially a fucking fascist, right? Like if all you do is watch this Marvel stuff, you're politically illiterate, right? You don't understand how your own country works. You don't understand what's going on the world stage. Like you have no idea what's going on at all, and like the other countries are basically just like as stereotypically racist as I've ever seen on film, right? Like the terrorist groups are just like one-dimensional boobs who literally are just like, we want the MacGuffin, and that's it. Well, for what? They don't even tell you. They just want it. Have you ever seen Brampton Batman? Brampton Batman. Of course this guy exists. Of course. Why shouldn't he? Like, come on. Why shouldn't there be a Brampton Batman? Look up Brampton Batman. I met him at a bar. He really thinks he's Batman. Yep. Let's all just play along with that. Spoon! Anyone seen Kidding with Jim Carrey? Kidding with Jim Carrey. Haven't seen this one. Like, the idea that Jim Carrey has become something of like a moral ethos for people, like he's like a moral guidepost. People are like, he's like saying stuff that sounds like from like a Chicken Soup for the Soul, like, which isn't to dishonor Jim Carrey's own personal journey or anything, but just like, I don't know, like, where is anybody who is even attempting to talk a game about like, hey, maybe we should care about one another at all? Like, it just doesn't seem to exist in the society anymore. I know a lot of Russian filmmakers, and they have a lot more freedom than I have. All they have to do is be careful about criticizing the government. George Lucas. Yeah, that does seem to be the truth. Like, JR, it seems that, like, as long as you are not overtly trying to throw a stone at the prevailing government, then they're going to kind of let you say what you like, right? Like, I think that's a big deal for a lot of the, like, in the freedom crowd here in the United States, and a lot of the people who, like, admire Putin, right? I think a part of that is that the Russian culture seems to actually be much more open in regards to what you can and cannot say. That the what's called the woke culture, in the eyes of these freedom guys, seems to have overstepped its bounds a little bit. And hold on, before I get into that, you know what, man? Okay, guys, I don't have a video or anything, so I gotta go use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Sorry, chair stream. Entertain them, Milo. Entertain the masses. Can you do it?
Why are you walking in front of me?
Sorry about that, guys. Chair stream. Chair smoking. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Victini. Thanks, bud. The Mask was a fun movie, dude. Like, when Jim... If you go back and you watch Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, you're gonna see, like, how quickly a society can actually change, right? And to be fair to, like, comedy, right? Comedy never ages well, right? Even the truly excellent comedians of yesteryear, you watch their stuff and you're like, pretty basic, right? Like, not really digging in deep in, or making like a clever sort of, or being close to what we see as funny. Like someone like Charlie Chaplin. Like if you think Charlie Chaplin is unfunny or bad, then there's something wrong with you, right? But it is like essentially slapstick, right? And sure, there's commentary and there's all that kind of stuff, but like it's not the right kind of thing. Pet Detective is overtly transphobic, like overtly in a huge way, right? The whole punchline of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective is that Einhorn is a man, right? Which is like the butt of a joke, and that the whole arc of the piece lands on, oh, this person is a trans person, and that's disgusting, right? Like, that's the whole arc of the entire piece, right? And you go back and you watch it, and you're like, oh, man, yeah, like, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective is, like, overtly homophobic, overtly transphobic. It's, like, right in front of your face. It's, like, right in front of your face. Like, I can't imagine what it would have been like to be a trans person watching Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. That, like, perhaps at first you could be like, haha, okay, yeah, and then, like, but as it goes along, it's like, haha, oh, and then, like, the final ending of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective is like, and but I'm not saying this to indict Carrie or to even indict that movie, right? It's not unique, right? Like, take a look at something like Revenge of the Nerds, right? Revenge of the Nerds back in the 80s was like a huge movie franchise, right? Revenge of the Nerds is like one of the and it's even on the fucking poster, right? So, like, in this movie, Revenge of the Nerds, right? Which is a classic. Like, don't get me wrong, there's good shit in here, right? The whole idea is that these nerds go to college and they encounter the jocks, right? And but in the film, the nerds do like a panty raid on one of the sororities, which we're all supposed to just be like normal, I guess. And then they install cameras in the sorority and spy on the women as they're, like, changing their clothes and doing all this kind of stuff. Again, supposed to be completely normal, totally normal, right? Oh, this is just a fun thing that normal people do. Later on, this guy here, the main protagonist, the hero of the story, he dresses up in the same costume as the antagonist male and deceives his girlfriend, who he's crushing on, into having sex with him, right? And when she finds out after the sex has been over, right, that it's him, the sex was so good that she's into it. So straight up rape, like straight up, right? But totally fine. Like, Revenge of the Nerds is, like, extremely problematic. And they made tons of sequels of this. There was a cartoon show. There was a cartoon that came out of this. Like, Revenge of the Nerds 3. Like, this is a huge, sweeping franchise. And if you go and you watch Revenge of the Nerds, you're like, oh boy, did this not age well at all. At all. Revenge of the Nerds sounds like a green text. Yeah. But, and like, some of the generation's best writers came out of Revenge of the Nerds, right? Harold Ramey was on Revenge of the Nerds, right? Like, Harold Ramey of Ghostbusters fame. Like, it's just, the reason why I'm talking this way, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, is that it's just interesting how quickly the culture evolves and how noticeable it is. If you were to take Revenge of the Nerds and make it shot for shot today and release it today, people would fucking freak out. It would be an enormous controversy, right? Women's rights advocates, feminists, the LGBT community, like, there's no winner. There's no winner. And like when we get talking about like things like toxic masculinity, that's where we're looking at that in Revenge of the Nerds. And I think it's the same thing with Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Like, I don't think that you could actually make that movie with that punchline right now and have it land for your audience, right? And if I wanted to use like a classical example of this phenomenon, it's The Merchant of Venice. Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, right? It's a play that calls itself a comedy, but all of the comedy surrounds anti-Semitism. So as long as you think the Jews are subhuman, the play is hilarious, right? That if you can get yourself into the mindset that Jews aren't people, right? We can push these people around. Then the play fucking is a laugh riot, right? And you could even make the argument that Shakespeare, and I think you should make the argument that Shakespeare is aware of this, because he puts in the play The Merchant of Venice a very powerful speech by the Jewish character, Shylock, right? If you cut me, do I not bleed, right? Like talking about this anti-Semitic relationship, beseeching the audience. Why does this exist, right? And this is happening within the framework of a comedy that uses anti-Semitism as a comedic tool. And but I've seen Merchant of Venice staged, and it is not funny. Like, it is not funny. And it's not funny because our society isn't anti-Semitic. And it, Breakfast at Tiffany's casting Mickey Rooney as an Asian character wouldn't fly today. Yeah. Oh, what's his name? Oh, the Nutty Professor. Come on, the Nutty Professor. Not the remake. What was that guy's name? Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis. Not Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lewis. Right? So he's the original Nutty Professor, right? You see this buck teeth thing that he does for this professor nerd character? Yeah, he would do that in Asian face all the time, right? Like, all the time. It was like one of his well-known, well-trodden characters, right? Asian face. Right? Like, he was doing it really, really regularly. Like, all of the time. And it was just considered totally normal. It was just a thing that you did. And this is within living memory, right? Like, my parents were watching this shit. Straight up. So, like, there's been, like, a shift in the culture in a way that has happened very, very rapidly on the surface. And what I think is happening to a certain degree is that the change is happening so rapidly that there's huge sections of the populace that can't keep up, right? That can't keep up. And so rather than trying to keep up, they're just frustratingly throwing up their hands. And the people who want to push the society further along are not making the space to accommodate these people, right? Like, they're saying to them, oh, you're just a bunch of racist, degenerate, this, that, and they're taking the stick and browbeating them, right? When, like, I am up, like, I don't agree with them, obviously, but I do think it's kind of understandable that, like, as a culture rapidly reforms itself, that there's going to be fairly large groups of people being like, what? What is happening? Right? And so instead of making space and being like, okay, like, we gotta have this talk, right? And instead of responding with like this cringy kind of like, oh, I can't believe you're talking like that. Like, you do have to make space for this, because what happens if you don't, right? What happens if you reach for the cancel button or the censorship button, right? Well, then they find each other, they create a little group, and before you know it, they've elected a senator. You know? Well, to me, they are aberrant and comical. I think art should be offensive. It challenges our imaginary reality by pressuring absurdity and symbolic language to require you to confront your perception. Well, and Victini, what you're getting into is another kind of wrinkle on the whole thing, right? Which is that, like, what was a really good example of this? Where, like, you know what you're doing is overtly racist, but you're doing it while with an awareness of that, and so it kind of, I think a good example of that might be the South Park episode, the Naggers episode, right? If you recall, Stan is on Wheel of Fortune, and the clue is people who annoy you, and it's N blank GGERS, right? And so Stan says the N-word on national television in front of everyone. And the answer is actually naggers. So then Stan has to go through this whole, like, thing of apologizing to her and all this kind of stuff. And so there's a commentary on racism that uses racist language in a way to highlight and inform. Whereas something like this, like what Jerry Lewis is doing here, is just making fun of Asians. Like, that's it. Just, aren't Asians funny? Haha. Yes, Simpsons did it. Well, of course they did, Bumble. Of course they did. What haven't the Simpsons done? Krusty and his flappy dicky and fake teeth saying "me so solely" and everyone booing him. Yeah, absolutely. Right? That comedy is interesting this way. But I see where you're coming from too, Victina. I get in trouble all the time because I think that comedians should have that space. You're right? Art should be offensive. It should challenge your imaginary reality. It should do these kinds of things. But there is such a thing as, like, someone using racism as a comedic tool to make fun of other people based on their race and sexual orientation, all that kind of stuff. Like, you think about somebody like Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder is exactly this, in my view. He describes himself as a comedian, although I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make fun. All of the humor that he's attempting to derive comes from an overt mockery of the individual itself, right? Like, Steven Crowder recently, like, he dressed up as a trans person and went to a gym and then started to make a scene about how he was trans, or any, like, acting in a way that no trans person would actually act. Like, no person would actually act, right? And it was all just a way to lampoon a trans person, right? Conversely, right, you think about someone like Dave Chappelle, right? And Dave Chappelle's big odyssey with the trans conversation and the trans community. And kind of, in my view, his sort of unfortunate landing on the pro-TERF position, which I think he would have been wise to not make that kind of a stand, to just leave that as a more open-ended question. But that's for him and all of that. But his commentary wasn't overtly mocking trans people as if they were non-entities or non-people. The humor wasn't being derived from a mockery of their existence. It was being derived from the contradictions or the inconsistencies or the incompatibilities that exist within that idea of being trans, and existed more as an exploration of trans existence. I actually make the argument that if you've got a person in your life who doesn't really understand trans people, or doesn't or perhaps is a trans bigot, that by going through Dave Chappelle's stuff, they're going to ease up on that a little bit, because I think Dave Chappelle brings a lot of understanding and is right to ask questions and to use his platform in order to ask those questions, right? But like, if Dave Chappelle was to come out dressed up as a woman, and the whole point of his shtick was to just lampoon trans people, that trans people are the butt of the joke, right? Like, that would be no different than this. In the 2000s, we had people like Bobby Lee, who's also an atrocity. I don't remember Bobby Lee. Yeah, it's old Hollywood didn't want to cast Asian actors. Bruce Lee was recast in shows because he was Asian to play an Asian character. He was too Asian to play an Asian character. Yeah, dude, like, and that's someone like Bruce fucking Lee, right? Like, Bruce Lee, are you kidding me? Like, Bruce Lee is like, sure, he's not a great actor. Oh yeah, Rob Schneider's caricatures, for sure, dude. For sure. Rob Schneider's like, Rob Schneider, racist character. Rob Schneider is a carrot, straight up, like pretty much straight up, right? Like, first thing you find, Rob Schneider essentially doing Asian face, right? Like, right? Not great. Not ideal. Not great. Right? And like, and this kind of thing was like, when I went to acting school, I was taught how to do like Asian accents and like all of those sorts of stuff, right? It's like built in. Don't forget the OG, Fu Manchu, played by a British man. You got it, dude. Yeah, dude. There is a level of satire, but you're right. Something like Pet Detective wasn't going for that. Yeah, like the punchline was, she's trans, right? Like, it wasn't a commentary on what it is to be trans. It was a twist, because no one was really thinking about it. They viewed Einhorn as a woman, but when it was revealed that she was trans, there was like universal revulsion, right? The whole film is about, oh, she's trans, and like the whole, like, you remember the scene when it's like revealed and like literally everybody starts like spitting the way that Ace Ventura did. And it's like, so not only is she trans, but she's also like a whore, right? Like, that's the implication. So it's just like, and there's nothing, like, it is, what's interesting about that is that it is actually an interesting twist, right? It's an interesting twist that a female character actually ends up being trans, and then that's sort of the turning point of the whole narrative, right? That is actually interesting. And I could see how that could be interesting to do in like a detective drama or something, right? Something where you were actually interested in exploring that concept, because like that's really what it comes down to for me. Is it's like, you're either doing it just to make fun of it, or you're doing it to explore it, right? And like someone like Dave Chappelle, I think, is doing it to explore it. John, have you seen Tu Wan Fu? That sounds familiar. Tu Wan Fu. Oh, yeah. I never actually saw this. Mainly because I thought it's just kind of an odd movie, you know? Like, I just was never drawn to it. It came out right when I was like a teenager, right? And I'm just like, how bad do I want to see Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John Leguizamo as 3 New York City drag queens when I'm 16? You know? Although I wonder how this film is, how it's aged. And like, at the time, like Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze were like action stars in my view, you know? Classic drag movie. Okay. High praise. It's funny, tension, drama, heartwarming. It's quite a romp. Okay. This is high praise for Tu Wong Fu. I'm sold. Like, I am not opposed. I got into one of the things that was real, because you guys remember, like, I was like a fundamentalist Christian, so like there definitely was a period of my life where I would have looked at this and been like, disgusting, right? Like, that's just real. That's how I was. And one of the things that really kind of helped me out of that, besides Will and Grace, because Will and Grace was really helpful for that, but was oh, come on, RuPaul Drag Race, right? RuPaul's Drag Race. It's just like straight up like, oh, here's a bunch of men who like to dress as women, and look how fucking fabulous they look. And they always do. They always look fucking fabulous every single time. They come out and they're just like, oh my god, like, look at these outfits. Look at this kind of stuff. It does. Let's wade into the controversy, because I've kind of been dancing around it. I'm very curious about RuPaul loves fracking. Oh my god. See, it's about class. At the end of the day, right? It's about class. Right, you can have your trans rights and your gay rights and your minority rights and all this kind of stuff. Show up to work on time. Let's frack the place, right? Hey John, speaking of comics, did you get the really crappy Christian propaganda comics? Dude, are you talking about? You got to be talking about the Tom Chick stuff, right? Tom Chick comics, right? Is this what you're talking about? Yeah, Tom Chick comics were like absolutely the most hilarious shit ever, dude. Like Tom Chick comics, he had one about Dungeons and Dragons. That was like, can I actually see? Yeah, the track comics. That's these. Yeah, dude, we got these all the time. Like, even as a kid, like the Dungeons and Dragons hate, I couldn't take seriously. I was like, nah. The Chick Tract Club. Here we go, dude. Oh, you kidding me? Come on, give me the Dungeons and Dragons one, dude. They're all named stupid, but like these. Here, let's just click on one. Are they not actually going to show us these Chick Tract titles? Oh, here we go. Angels, Apes, Lies. Oh my god, come on, give me the Dungeons and Dragons one, dude. Yeah, these were all. Yeah, I've probably read all of these. Or a lot of them, anyway. Like, they were always just around, and they were terrible. Like, just, oh, here we go. Come on, give it to me. Let me see, yes. Okay, wizard, cast your spell. Okay, dungeon master, my spell of light blinds the monster. The thief, Black Leaf, did not find the poison track, and I declare her dead. No, not Blackleaf. No, I'm going to die. Don't make me quit the game. Please don't. Somebody save me. You can't do this. Marcy, you're out of here. You're dead. You don't exist anymore. Debbie, your cleric has been raised to the 8th level. I think it's time that you learn how to really cast spells. You mean you're going to teach me how to have the real power? Yes, you have the personality for it now. The intense occult training through D&D prepared Debbie to accept the invitation to enter the Witch's Coven. I've brought Elfstar to become a priestess and witch. Welcome, Elfstar. Now you will become a priestess of the craft and the Temple of Diana. Dude, I wish D&D was this sweet. Are you kidding me? Miss Frost, this is fantastic. This makes the game real. It's not a fantasy anymore. Last night I cast my first spell. This is real power. I knew you were ready by the way you played the game, but this is just the beginning. There is so much more. Which spell did you cast, Debbie? Look at her face. I used the mind bondage spell on my father. He was trying to stop me from playing D&D. What was the result? He just bought me $200 worth of new D&D figures and manuals. It was great. Dude. Later that week. Hey, Debbie, Marcy's on the phone. She wants to talk to you. She's really upset. I can't. I'm fighting the zombie. Tell her I'll see her tonight. Hold on. You can't talk and stop. D&D is a turn-based game. Okay? This is the Dungeon Master. She's on the phone. She's not fighting a zombie. The Dungeon Master is the zombie. Tom Chick doesn't even know how D&D works. I mean, certainly, like, it's the classic, like, gateway drug shit. Oh, you can't do marijuana or else it'll gateway drug you down to... Hi, Mrs. Anderson. Marcy wanted to see her tonight. I'm glad you're here, Debbie. Marcy has shut herself in a room and won't come out. She hasn't been herself for weeks. I've been very worried. Ever since her character in the game got killed, it's as though a part of her died. Maybe you can talk some sense into her? No, Marcy, you didn't have to do that. Jesus Christ, Tom Chick. Like, Jesus Christ. Marcy's character in D&D died, and so she committed suicide. It's my fault Blackleaf died. I can't face life alone. Like, again, I wish the D&D was this hardcore. Miss Frost, I can't get Marcy out of my mind. How could she do something like this? If I'd left the game, she'd be alive today. Get your priorities straight, Debbie. Your spiritual growth through the game is more important than some lousy loser's life. It would have happened sooner or later. Her spirit was too weak. But the law of our faith is that we can do anything we want as long as we harm no one. But now we have harmed Marcy. What have I gotten myself into? Don't be stupid, Debbie! I think you'd better let Elfstar take care of things. You're getting out of control. I don't want to be Elfstar anymore. I want to be Debbie. Hey, Debbie, what's wrong? Can I help? I thought I had all the answers, Mike, but now everything is falling apart. Sob. Debbie, I told you Jesus is the only answer, and I've been praying and fasting for you. Why would you do that for me? Because I know what you're involved in. It's a spiritual warfare that you can't win without the Lord Jesus. What can I do? Come with me to a meeting this afternoon. The speaker came out of witchcraft, and he knows what you're up against. That afternoon, you who are involved in the occult think you have achieved power, but you have been trapped in a dungeon of bondage. The limited power you have been given is only bait to lure you to destruction. But Jesus came that you might have life, and that more abundantly. Jesus sets us free from the bondage of witchcraft and gives us victory over all the power of the enemy. Satan, right? You gotta be clear. Brackets. Satan. God's word declares that you must repent. Turn to Jesus Christ and trust him alone as your Savior. Then, according to Acts 19:19, you should gather up all your occult paraphernalia, like your rock music, occult book, charms, dark dungeons materials. Don't throw them away. Burn them. We'll do that here tonight. We will also be praying for the deliverance of those who have been allowed occult forces to control them. If you want the Lord Jesus as your Savior, come forward now. Oh God, I need help. My life's a mess. Help me. In the name of Jesus, I order spirits of the occult to leave Debbie. Lord Jesus, I repent. I trust that you died for me. Please be my savior. You guide me through life. I want you to be in charge of everything, not that lousy D&D manual. If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. John 8:36, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. 2 Corinthians 3:17. Debbie burned all her occult material that night. Thank you, Lord, for setting me free. This fucking panel. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved. And then there was like a little questionnaire at the end, right? Do you believe Jesus died on the cross for you? You can say yes. Did you ask him to come into your heart to save you? Yes. If you sign, you can remember when God saved your soul, right? So you can actually set the date when God saved your soul. The Bible says there's only one way to heaven. Dude, this right here, this line right here has caused so many problems. Like, absolutely. Like, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. It's like the most decontextualized, like, yeah, we can commit atrocities against whoever we like because only Jesus is the way, because it says here in the book in this one line. Like, that's really what it is, dude. Like, bro. And, like, I'm going through this, and I'm literally like, so the main complaint of the Christian fellow is that she's paying attention to her own book instead of your wonky book, right? Like, it's really just like a book fight. And, like, come on. Like, come on, bro. Like, first of all, if, like, you're serious about this? That there's, like, a D&D cult thing going on this level where there's, like, cultists and shit? Like, come on. Come on. Like, if this cult was happening, do you really think they would be using Dungeons and Dragons as their gateway? Like, I just think that, like, they would use other methods. That Dungeons and Dragons would not be their go-to, right? And, like, and then this whole situation with the suicide, like, come on. It's my fault Blackleaf died, I can't face life alone. She literally, you know what happens when your character dies? You make another one. And if you really, really liked your other character, you make the same character. Like, it's not actually hard to do. Like, these Tom Chick, man, I'm so happy I went through that, dude. Like, so much of what I was surrounded by when I was younger was junky shit like this. Shit that's just, like, kind of, like, cringy and embarrassing to look at now. Where I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, how was this convincing to anybody? How did anybody think that's super... Oh, no, it's done now, guys. We timed it out. It's over. We had our chance with Tom Chick. It's over now. Like... The reason I mention these comics is because if you want to study poorly done and heavy-handed propaganda, these are a primer. Yeah, dude. The Tom Chick stuff is just, like, as bad as it gets. And that's actually, like, one of the oh, yeah. I was just about to say, dude. Tom Chick comics. Let's Tom Chick. Like, get your free copy. No, this isn't the site we were at. Where was that site? Dude, did they just, like, straight up shut the website down as we were going through it? Holy shit, dude. I think that they shut it down right as we were going through it. Get out of here. Because, like, they were like, no, they can't see it. Dude. No, there was, like, very homophobic, like, very, very, like, and like, I'm only going from my memory, but, like, very, very scary shit. Like, very scary shit that if people still were using and believing in, I'd be like, Big fucking yikes, dude. Here, let's see if we can, here. I know we're gonna go over time here a little bit, but that's fine. Come on, I found it through this. And so, here we go. The Chick Tract Club. Come on, Chick Tract Club. Why'd you work first and now you're not working anymore? It's right here. They shut it down, guys. They shut it down on us. See what happened? See what happened? Site can't be reached. Holy shit. The devil doesn't want the truth to get out. That's what it is. We're fighting against the forces of the devil. Like, no, there was like overt, like homophobic ones. Gay panic shit for sure. Reefer madness shit. Absolutely. Absolutely. Bro, your trope is obviously lame. We have serious suicide pact coven meetings constantly. Exactly. You don't need D&D for that shit. The people who want to have like suicide pact covens, like they're just going to do that. Like that, you don't need D&D. All right, guys. We've done it. We've reached the end. Today was a fun one, guys. Thanks for coming on the journey with me. We had a wacky Wednesday. I rather liked that. That was nice. That was nice. All right, guys. Always remember, you are a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the vain hope that you'll never realize it and just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.